13th. It is 9:06. My apologies for running the meeting out on time. Just trying to get everybody settled in. Make sure we have the opportunity if there's emergency services that need to be provided. We do have our parking allowance to provide that service. Everything seems to be working okay. We do have a packed crowd. Also, we do have some things that we might want to do, some housekeeping to get some of our presentations in order. Those of you that want to talk for citizens' concerns, we'll be able to get our presentations hopefully. So I'm going to go ahead and follow up with the agenda as presented. Ms. Martinez, would you please call roll?
Commissioner Fambrook.
Present.
Chairman Gallegos.
Present.
Commissioner Romero.
Present.
Commissioner Blankenhorn.
Present.
Vice Chair O'Donnell. Present.
Thank you. Next item is our inspiration and devotion. Mr. Pastor over UNM-Taos Square Church.
Go on the other side.
Oh, okay.
Don't move in.
Okay, first of all, we want to pray for Brent Jaramillo. We'll have a moment of silence and prayer. Heavenly Father, we pray for Brent Jaramillo, who's going through surgery right now, Lord, and we just ask that you extend your hand of mercy and help the doctors to have the wisdom, Father God, to know exactly what to do, Father. And we ask, Father God, that you would help in the surgery and, Lord, that you would come out of it, Lord, being healed. In Jesus' mighty name, amen. And I'd also like to pray for, concerning this meeting here. The Bible says in Matthew 11:28, it says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." God always wants to give us rest, and that word rest is peace, and so today I come to speak peace. As a matter of fact, that's what I ministered on Sunday. That there was a group of people that always used to greet each other with the words, "Peace be with you." And I believe it's important for us to have peace as we handle business of our community, of our state, of our nation. In 1 Timothy 2, it says there, "I exhort you therefore, that first of all supplications and prayers and intercessions and giving of thanks be made for all men, for kings, and for all that are in authority, that we may lead a quiet and peaceable life in all godliness and honesty." And so as we pray today, we're praying for peace, but we're also praying for wisdom, that God would give wisdom to all those in leadership, that our communities, our county, our state would be guided properly. Heavenly Father, we just pray right now, Father God, that you would grant unto us that wisdom, Father God, that is needed as leaders of our community, Father God, that we would lead them in a peaceful way, in a godly way, Lord, and we just speak peace over this meeting, over our community, over our state, and we just ask, Father God, that you give clear direction today. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Stay standing, and Mr. Auditor, will you please?
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioners. Next item is approval of the agenda. Commissioner Blank.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda with the following changes. Approve 8 presentations to 6, and also 9A, so that we can address this resolution prior to the public comment.
Motion's been made as amended. Do I hear a second? Second. Second. Mr. Martinez.
Commissioner Romero.
Yes.
Commissioner Blankenhorn.
Yes.
Commissioner Fambrook.
Yes.
Vice Chair O'Donnell. Yes. Chairman Gallegos.
Yes. Thank you. Our first item on presentations is going to be a presentation regarding the Taos County's financial audit for the period ending of June 30th, 2018 from Cordova CPAs LLC. We've got Mr. Cordova, principal, and Robert Gonzalez, principal auditors.
Okay, well, thank you very much. My name is Bobby Cordova. I represent Cordova CPAs. This was our firm's first year conducting the audit of fiscal year-end 18, which goes from July 2017 to June 2018 of Taos County's financial statements. And there's a requirement out there that the audited financial statements are presented and discussed in a public setting, and so that's what we're doing today. So I'm talking, I got this agenda up here, this little one sheet, and we're just going to go a little bit on the timing of the project, the financials, some of the financial highlights, and then the opinions and findings. Okay, so we talked a lot about this in detail throughout the process, but you know, we started the process in the summer of 18. We sent a list of laundry list of things to prepare. To finance and also to the treasurer's office with Susan and Paula, and that's when the process started. On August 2nd, we had an entrance conference. Mr. Fambro from the County Commission was present, along with several other members of management and the team we working with here. We established the scope, the responsibilities of the county, the responsibilities of the auditor, ultimately come up with a plan to execute the project over the following months. Actual on-site field work, we were here for 2 weeks in early August and then mid-October. Throughout that process, though, there was a lot of communication, a lot of work done off-site, and ultimately there was a draft of the financial statements, and that's the ending deliverable that you see, and that's on the state auditor's website.
Part of your work picture.
Yeah, there we go. Okay. So on November 12th, that was sent, and then on the 20th, November 20th, was the exit conference. Real, you know, we had about an hour and a half, 2-hour meeting on the details, on the conclusions of the audit, and there, Mr. Fambro was also present at the meeting, and those are the folks that were listed there. There was a little bit of delay in the review process with Santa Fe this year. And on January 17th is when this okay to print / approval was received. Then there's another period of wait, and on the 22nd of January was the release letter. So 5 days after that is technically when it becomes a public record, a public document. Okay, so on the 27th, that document was uploaded to the state auditor's website. We printed the copies and sent them over to the county for the physical versions. But overall, several communications with the county commission from the beginning of the project. We wrote you emails, met with you during the process, and ultimately the exit conference, we discussed the results. Okay. Some financial highlights. As of 6/30/18, so we are kind of back in the past, $132 million of assets that this group is responsible for governing. Okay, a lot of that is capital in nature, $93.6 million. That's the roads, infrastructure, buildings, and then the most significant asset is about $34 million of cash and investments. $35 million of expenditures for fiscal year 18. Now that's on a full accrual basis. Okay, so if you look at your budget, it might be different, but looking at depreciation and everything that the true expense on an accrual basis, looking at the county as a business, $35.4 million was the total expenditures, mainly public safety and just general government services makes that up. We talked a lot about a new announcement, GASB Statement number 75, a lot of discussion about that. The retiree healthcare OPEB plan is underfunded, and that's divvied up throughout the state of New Mexico. Taos County participates in that. So that was about $9 million. That's a brand new liability that you'll see in your financial statements. Overall, debt made a lot of progress in paying the debt down. About $8.7 million in paying, looking at the debt principal from 6/30/17 to 6/30/18. So, chipping away at the debt, got the new county, there was some restructures, there was a restructured loan, so save some money at the cost of borrowing in the future, okay? Overall, the objective of our audit is to render an opinion about whether the financial statements are fairly presented, whether they're free of material misstatement due to error or fraud. And the opinion that we rendered at the exit conference was an unmodified opinion. So that means that financial statements were free of material misstatement. A lot of hard work goes into this process, and I understand the county received an award during the year for the finance award, and so I wanted to thank the treasurer's office and finance for working with our team. The first year can be difficult, but we try to make it pretty smooth. We felt it went pretty smooth. December 1st is the deadline to submit county financial statements to the state, and that was of course met. Okay, opinion was unmodified. There were 2 findings last year in 2017. We followed up on those findings and we deemed them to be resolved. Okay, so they were not reviewed. And then there was one matter we talked about at the exit conference. And then of course we made a lot of informal recommendations, and maybe not findings, but it's how to improve operations, efficiencies. We did that in the treasurer's office. We did a lot of work on the IT infrastructure and the security, cybersecurity. That's a big deal. And so we talked a lot about that. Capital assets, we made some recommendations on how to improve the processes there. So overall, we want to thank you for allowing us to serve Taos County, and we appreciate the working relationship and the hard work that went into the process. So I'll take questions at this time.
Any questions? Mr. Chair? Yes.
So just the one finding and 2 previous off-the-books, nothing else in the
Yeah, correct. In the report, in the back of the report, it has the schedule of findings and is on page 146, and that details the prior year issues, if they were resolved or repeated, and in the current year matter.
And the finding, in your opinion, where does it rate?
So it fell at, I guess, the least severe, just because of the dollar amount. But it's always it's a professional judgment, right? It's the auditor's judgment where that falls. But just because it's small, it doesn't mean that this group shouldn't pay attention to it. If you're spending public dollars, the taxpayer, there should be documentation and support for all that. And so we get classified as the least severe, but the details are in there, and that's where it's classified.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Chairman, Commissioners, thank you. Could you clarify what you just referenced, 9 million? Could you, you just said something about 9 million. Did I hear you say opioid? Or there was some, what were you referencing?
So what I was talking about there was the Retiree Healthcare Authority. That's the OPEB, Other Post-Employment Benefit Fund.
Okay.
Okay. That's,
All right.
So it's for when you retire, the health care for retirees. And there's not enough investments in the plan to, and of course it's a soft number, we talked about that in detail, it's an estimate. And there's not enough investments in there to satisfy the estimated obligation going forward. And the county share at 6/30/18 was roughly $9 million.
Where is that on the list?
Well, that is on page, there's a lot of disclosures on it, talking about the assumptions, how long people are going to live, what is the cost of healthcare in the future, So those disclosures are in there, but if you want the actual number, if you go to page 25, you go to page 25 under liabilities, non-current liabilities.
All right, I see it, thank you.
Yeah, net OPEB liability, and then the one above that is net pension liability, that has to do with PARA. The Public Employment Retirement, so that's actually the retirement benefit. This is retiree health care for the health care post-employment.
And Bobby, this is all new.
Yes, OPEB, the OPEB is new now in fiscal year 18, so the county pronouncement was required to be implemented. Of course, the county doesn't really have any say, or we don't audit that number. It's audited at the time level. So there's auditors that audit that number, and your responsibility is to implement and recast it in your financial statement.
And please tell me again what it stands for.
other post-employment benefit. And then there's footnotes, just, you know, if you wanted to read more detail, starting on page, regarding that, on page 67. Okay, 67, there's a lot of information about the actuarial study and the actuarial estimates that went into that number and how that's recasted.
Thank you.
Commissioner Romero. Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. In terms of the capital assets, what is the worth of this building at this point?
Oh, this building?
Yeah.
Oh, and I'd have to go look at the, the listing, you know, the detailed listing.
So it's included in the 93.6?
The 93.6 million is the book value. Yeah, so if you take all the cost, it's at cost, not fair value. Okay, so all the cost less the depreciation over time. So as you know, so this building probably had a 40-year life or so, and it's 8 years in, you know, so there's roughly
32.
Yeah, 32 years left in terms of the book value of the cost of the building.
Thank you.
Anything else, Mr. Porter, Commissioners?
Mr. Chairman, I have something.
Ms. Martinez.
Thank you. I just wanted to extend the appreciation that we've had for Taos County. This is the first year that Taos County had an auditor that we believe we can establish our working relationship. I do want to thank Mr. Cordova and his staff for the performance that we've conducted. We feel we have learned and gained trust in this audit firm, and we hope to work with you in the near future.
Thank you for your presentation. I know that you may have other presentations to follow up with, so.
Yeah, you got a few as well.
We got plenty.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you. Have a nice day. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Take care.
Mr. Chairman, no motion to approve or accept the audit as presented needs to be done? We've done that.
It's a presentation at this time, Commissioner.
It was accepted at the,
That's right.
audit exit, and we previously accepted the finding that we had. And then the formal, after the presentation, I think it's later on in the agenda, item 8. Consent.
So, Mr. Chairman, it will be made public after today.
Yes. Next item is item D. This is a presentation regarding the 2019 New Mexico legislative update. We have Patricia representing the county on a day-to-day basis in Santa Fe, so she spent a good amount of 60 days up there, so thank you for coming today.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission. Again, I'm Patricia Quintana. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail, but what I have in front of you is just a general overview of those priorities that you approved of last fall going into the session. The session ended on Saturday the 16th. The governor has until April the 5th to take action on all legislation. That legislation that she does not take action on will automatically become a pocket veto. And then June 14th is the effective day of legislation, not a general appropriation bill or a bill carrying an emergency clause or other specified dates. Currently, there's 309 bills that have been passed with concurrence on both House and Senate. Some are in the process of being enrolled and engrossed. Some have been enrolled and engrossed. Some have been already sent up to the governor. I will have a full, complete report for you after the 5th of April with not just the final count on what we received, but also legislation that may either impact Taos County directly or indirectly. So what I'd like to say also, in the amount that's in front of you, the $4.2 million, that is general fund appropriation. So as soon as the governor signs that bill, it goes into effect, meaning that we can start moving, or the county can start moving on its project. With that, I know you have a packed agenda. I will leave it at that if there's any questions or comments. If not, that's the report until April 16th.
Chairman, job well done. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's been an honor to represent Taos County. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to the last item of presentation, litigation regarding the Taos Early Childhood Center Bill, Nick, and Dr. Patrick Valdez. Thank you. Good morning. Good morning, Chairman Davis, Commissioner. Good morning. Morning. My name is Dr. Patrick Valdez. I'm the CEO of UNM-Taos. First, I'd like to say how amazing it is to see so many people out in support of early childhood. So, I'm here today to, first let me just start by saying thank you to the commissioners of the county, to the citizens of Taos, for all the support they've given UNM-Taos over the years. That support allows us to bring post-secondary educational opportunities to the citizens of Taos County, and the North Central New Mexico region. It's a mission that we serve daily and one that we're proud to serve and to give the citizens. And so we believe that we are good fiduciary agents and honor the commitment that has been given to us by the citizens of Taos. So first, I want to make sure to say that. Very important to that educational mission is providing the citizens of Taos with options when it comes to employment opportunity. The entire purpose of seeking certificates or an associate's degree is to provide that option. It also provides a sustainable workforce for the region, which we believe is important also to sustain a viable community. But something that can often prohibit families from seeking both of those are child care in this area. And that's an issue not only in the state of New Mexico, as we know, but more so in specific counties. And we're not immune to that here in Taos County. And so what I'd like to do now is turn over a presentation to one of our faculty members in the Early Childhood Multi-Education Program at UNM-Taos. It's going to talk to you a little bit today about the need for increased child care and lay the foundation for what we hope will be use of the Ancianos building to be able to bring in another early childhood center like the one that we have at the Power Campus, more centrally located here in Taos, that will provide child care opportunities for citizens in this area. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Ms. Taylor Echemendy.
Thank you, Dr. Valdez, and thank you, commissioners, for having us, and thank you for everyone for being here. Tracy is going to pass out some additional information. We all know that New Mexico ranks at the bottom. We're 50th for child well-being, we're 50th for education, and these are some of the reasons that we started the Puzzle Network and the Taos Early Childhood Alliance began investigating possibilities for our community. We know that we are at 32% of children in Taos County live below the poverty line. 52% of households renting have high housing burden. 44% of children in Taos County have single-family homes. 12% of children in New Mexico live with a parent that's incarcerated. And 36% of children under the age of 6 in New Mexico live with their grandparents. Taos ranks among the lowest across the board among counties in New Mexico. And so we're all of our centers, we have only 3 centers in Taos County that serve children 0 to 3. And we know that there's a huge correlation between high quality early childhood education and lifelong success, academic success, workforce development, all of those different things. So, 90% of the brain develops by age 5. So those first 5 years are really crucial in lifelong success. For every dollar invested in early childhood is a $10 to $17 return in a community's economic well-being. And so I think that those are important things to know. I don't think necessarily the general public knows those things about number one, statistics of New Mexico. I'm sure that you guys do. In Taos County, but also the importance of investing in young children. So the Taos Early Childhood Alliance was born out of the Paso El Paso network about 2 years when we started to search for solutions of this community crisis of not having enough spaces for children 0 to 3 predominantly. And so through that process, we've, with the support of the Keeler Foundation, Thornburg Foundation, and the Brindle Foundation, we've been able to kind of come up with a strategic plan in beginning to look at and ameliorate some of these issues and begin to come together as a community, come together under UNM as the kind of guiding force in looking at high quality, increasing the workforce, and increasing access and availability of early childhood. So what we know is that even if we were to be able to expand access and availability, we don't have the workforce to be able to accommodate those jobs. And so what we've done is created a residency program through the early childhood department at UNM. So it's an innovative clinical approach to early childhood. So we have 2 current lab schools, one at UNM Kids Campus, one at Inspire Bilingual Early Learning Center. And what we're doing is there are residents that come in, so a lot of them single moms, working full-time, and the work is embedded into their work schedule, working with young children, working with faculty members from UNM, giving on-the-ground support to those teachers. So we've increased the department from 4 to 36 just within the last year, and plan to expand out into additional community lab schools. So our hope is that to engage in conversation about the possible use of the Ancianos building as kind of the hub for professional development, expanded services for infants and toddlers, and really to create some of this cross-system collaboration and support, not only for existing centers, but also home care providers. We know that Taos has a long history of home care providers, and we support that. So again, this is a collaborative effort among many systems, UNM-Taos, the Taos Municipal Schools, as well as all of the early childhood community members. And so we hope to engage in this conversation with you guys about potentially taking over that building and expanding our work to support young families and children. Some of the things that we hope to embed into that program is number 1, professional development for early childhood educators as well as Taos Municipal School, expanded services for 0 to 3-year-olds, a community kitchen to expand farm to table programming for early childhood families, children and their families. We hope to embed mental health services, behavioral health, dental health, partnerships with some of the medical centers in order to help meet families where they are, create and then additional trainings for both families as well as educators. So that kind of gives you an overview, and I'm happy to answer questions.
Open for commission. Commissioner Benjamin.
Thank you, Chairman. Thanks. This is a great idea, incredibly useful and important to the community. So what are you going to be asking us for, and when will you need to know?
We're right at this point, we're just asking to engage in conversation and explore the possibility of committing to moving in the potential of using the space. So I suppose we're just asking to investigate the possibility. We'll have to we've had preliminary visits by the UNM architect, things like that, to look at the viability of the building, and that seems to be going well. But I think that it's worth exploring and investigating the possibility. As we're also going to be doing some cross-generational work with the neighboring ancianos, the elderly citizens.
Commissioners, if I just add, we also want to say that
we want to make sure that we explore this opportunity with the county because of the fact we also have outside funding agencies who have committed dollars to this need. As you know, a lot of times we have to partner with outside agencies in order to support the mission. I also want to add, so to be very clear, what we're asking for is a vote today that just gives us to join the county in exploring the opportunity to use that building for a child care center. So it doesn't commit the county to an absolute yes. It's just letting us know that we have a commitment so that we can at least invest some dollars, go back to the foundations that are interested in doing this and saying that we're moving this project along. So we would seek a vote in support of allowing us to have that research.
Well, it's not listed as a decision item, and we're kind of stuck by that. But for me, I'm very much in favor of this, moving forward with this program. I can't imagine a better use for that. And then, of course, soon after, as quickly as you need it, we can put it back on the agenda with notice that it will be for a decision.
It works for us.
Commissioner Federal.
Mr. Chair and members of the commission, I've been working with Mr. Knief, so you got to be here somewhere, for over a year on this, and I would ask that I continue to work with him dialogue, and we can get maybe some timetables or something, and bring something back at one of the future meetings, and that I'll just continue working with him if it's the pleasure of the commission regarding this project.
Thank you, Commissioner Federal, for participating. Commissioner Romero.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I'd like to welcome our acting county managers to the table. Done awesome, and I'm glad that you're here with us. I would like to ask of our administration as to whether or not there are any proposed plans, any other plans with regards to this particular building.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Right now, Taos County is just basically listening to options that we have available to us. This is one of the first formal presentations that we have received, and we are working for our kids in our community, and this is a viable option that we can use that building for this purpose.
So I would like to say publicly, Mr. Chairman, that I too am in favor of your program, and I realize that this particular building, I think, is a great use. It's a great way to establish the future. You know, that's what people and our children in our county. And so, you know, we can't make a decision on it today because of the way the item is written on the agenda. But when it does get presented to us again, I definitely support it.
Commissioner, would just like to add to that, again, it builds a foundation for the future, but more importantly, it also serves the present. As Ms. Echene mentioned, not only does it provide an opportunity for families who need daycare to be able to go and work without having to worry about child care, or those that want to seek education, it also lays a foundation for 0 to 3, which, as was mentioned, is such an integral part. These services were services that for a long time were considered those for the rich. Only the rich were able to send, those in a higher social class were able to send their kids to Montessori schools and to pre-K. This is something that we've now extended, and we're trying to extend into counties and into communities that would otherwise not have those opportunities. So much like our post-secondary educational opportunities that serve this region, that 0 to 4 child care would also serve families that would normally not have had that opportunity. So it does that. And the third thing it does is, as was mentioned, increasing the workforce here. People who are interested in going into child care can do that here at UNM-Taos, because we have now extended those programs and those learning labs. And so it's a win-win in many ways, and again, probably mostly because we have funders who are willing to help support that. And so it's something that we would like to continue exploring, and the words that have been shared with me today are inspiring, so thank you.
And how awesome, Mr. Chairman, that we'll have the senior citizens on one corner of that street and people and kids on the other side.
Commissioner Vice Chair O'Donnell.
Thank you for being here. What do you anticipate your capacity to be? How many children?
I'll turn that over to Ms. Echene.
It's a big space, so I think, depending on how the programming rolls out as far as professional development, we anticipate no less than 50 children and families. But again, our hope is to embed services as well and become a professional development services hub as well.
And do you have an estimated cost of renovation?
We don't yet.
Okay.
Yeah, so as we move forward, we'll take those.
Am I correct to say that this is open to any Taos County resident? Our employees can use it?
Yes.
Not just UNM students?
It's a community-wide.
I like that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Good. Well, I think that you got a lot of good positive feedback. Indirectly, there seems to be some favorable support. Asking that you be doing the presentation. I felt that opportunities for these spaces that the county may have vacant, we have those conversations so we know what kind of opportunities are there for tenants. And I think that I've been waiting for this presentation for a while, so I know it's been untimely for us to be able to have you guys come up, but now we're feeling comfortable, we know what we're trying to move forward with as a county, and having those opportunities from commercial kitchens to just basically simple things that parents need to be secure where their kids can be placed while they're trying to further education themselves. So it's a big plus. We appreciate what you have done throughout the county, supporting just even the schools, getting kids to get those early college credits to now getting all the way down to the basics and having 0 to 3 is even better. So hope to have further conversation and let's see what we'll put this out in the next meetings to come and see if we can enter an idea of what we're moving forward. So.
Thank you so much.
One more question, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Did you get any money from the state legislature that will augment this program?
There has been expanded early childhood. There's a lot of investment and a lot of legislation that passed for early childhood expansion across the state.
So then if someone were coming in and needed daycare, do you have an estimate what the cost would be for those people?
It depends. 3 and 4-year-old programming is free. So that's grant funded through New Mexico Pre-K. The 0 to 3 option is dependent on the financial situation per family. So if they qualify for child care subsidies, then it can be as low as $0 a month. If they do not qualify for subsidy, then generally the average range is about $800 per month for full-time.
I'm sorry, did you say
$800 a month for full-time care for those that don't qualify. Again, within our most families qualify. 92% of the families that Inspire are on early child care subsidy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Again, thank you, and I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge the Cure Foundation representative who's here today, Ms. Hofer, who's in support of the work that we're doing. So again, thank you all, and again, thank you all for coming out to support us.
Presentations, we'll move on with item, help me out, Commissioner, we went to item 9A. This is a resolution. This comes at a discussion consideration regarding the approval resolution 2019-18, repealing the resolution of 2019-13, which proposed softer sentencing requirements and legislation that would impose rules, regulations, and restrictions exceeding federal law on all private firearm transfers and lawful ownership and infringe individual rights due to due process. Commissioner Romero.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the time to be able to speak today. First of all, I'd like to say that I am the one that put this item on the agenda as indicated in writing. I wasn't coerced or forced by anyone to do it. I did it out of my own free will. I prayed about it, and I thought about it long and hard. As many of you know, I've served on this commission for more than 16 years now. By the time I'm done here, it will be 18 years. And so I'd like to say that never in these last 16 years have I felt like I had made the wrong decision like I did a couple of weeks ago when we voted on the rest of the first resolution, 2019-13, to support Sheriff Holbrook and what he was presenting to us, and I did not feel good about it. In the past, I have voted on thousands and thousands of issues that have affected not only our employees, but each and every one of you all as residents and citizens of Taos County. And so, after consulting with our attorney last week, I asked him to help me in drafting the repeal that is on the agenda today for resolution number 2019-13. And I'd like to thank you all, even if you are against my thoughts, or for those of you who are supporting. This is a great democracy. It's a great opportunity to come and voice your thoughts and concerns. And so I respect you kindly for that. I hope that the commission, the majority of the commission, if not all of the commission, will vote today to continue through with this repeal. And with that, Mr. Chairman, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you for your speech, Commissioner. We are in a discussion, consideration, decision regarding the approval of Resolution 2019-18. And we also, in this, is to repeal 2019-13.
Mr. Chair, that is the motion.
Correct. So we need to enter into a motion before we can have further discussion. You had your opportunity to speak, so we will ask for a motion to do as such.
I'll go ahead and set a motion, Mr. Chairman, to repeal or to present a resolution number 2019-18, which is a resolution repealing resolution number 2019-13.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second have been made. For discussion, Commissioner Blank.
Thanks, Chairman. So this is the third iteration of a resolution on this topic. The first one included the monumentally bad idea of giving the sheriff discretion to enforce or not enforce laws as they come down. Thanks to Commissioner Fambro, that provision was taken out of the first resolution, and the second resolution which we voted on did not include that. However, it was widely reported that it did, all the way up to the Wall Street Journal. There was an article that said there were 30 counties in New Mexico out of 33 that had actually supported this idea of allowing the sheriff discretion on a lawful bill. So I voted against the second one because it also included opposition to background checks. All of us are concerned about guns getting into the hands of people with a history of violence or instability, because we've seen the results in our country all over the world again and again. Background checks is a check against that. It's imperfect. Every legislation is imperfect, but it's critical. We can't just throw up our hands and say, well, you know, private gun sales have to be allowed for some Second Amendment reason. It's nonsense. They don't. I support the Second Amendment. But you have to have checks because it saves lives. So that's why I voted against the second one. This one doesn't include any of that. The language is innocuous, but I am reluctant to support it because we are going to again get lumped in with all of the other counties that have passed a resolution on this issue, and I don't want Taos County to be lumped into that group of other counties. I am very much in favor of rescinding the resolution that was passed 2 weeks ago.
Commissioner Pembroke, sorry. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As I stated, which was lost in all of the discussion, apparently because of the hateful threats and phone calls, reminding me I have a son in school, and I personally shoulder the burden of a school shooting that involved my son. Thank you. Wow. Thank you for those emails and phone calls. I appreciate it. So with that said, as I tried to state, I supported us upholding our oath of office. And even this right here says that it exceeds federal law and the Constitution. And that's not what we're supposed to be doing here. So my vote was for not going against the Constitution, which we all took an oath of office. But that wasn't heard. That wasn't heard by anyone. And I will continue to uphold my oath of office. In talking to people in Santa Fe about this, even if it was supposed to be decided by a higher court. So what we've done is polarized our county. And we got the hate that has come out in this one issue is the hate that caused New Zealand. That was racial. The racial stuff that's come out of this. But when you attack me and attack my family through emails and anonymous phone calls, I didn't hear that from the other side. So I really have a hard time, Commissioner Romero, opening up a wound that's going to be in Taos County for a long time. There's people, oh, I'm a lawyer, I used to be a judge, I know that, this doesn't go against the Constitution. They don't know that in Santa Fe. But yet we know it here. And we can still attack people's personal integrity because they want to uphold their oath of office. They don't want to go against the Constitution of the United States, which even in Santa Fe they agree. They don't know if this will hold up. I don't know. You don't know. But stuff that divides our community the way that this did. Commissioner Blankenhorn said it the best.
Thank you, Commissioner Pembroke. Commissioner or Vice Chair O'Donnell.
Thank you. Thank you for everyone who was in the room, and thank you for both proposing and supporting of this repeal. I did receive over 50 emails in support of repealing and about 3 or 4 against it. I do know that the governor will set in place software to help law enforcement across the state implement background checks. They're going to revise reporting, make it easier for law enforcement to talk to each other. That includes sheriffs, cities, and state police. So there is a mechanism that will assist in performing background checks. As we know, SB 8 has passed and signed the governor. The other is Senate Bill 323 that has passed the House and Senate, is now awaiting signature from the governor. And that is for protection for domestic violence victims. And I believe she will sign it. I do support both these bills. There are no other gun bills that made it in the state legislature. So with that, I do support it. I think it's important. I believe it will not lump us with the 25 counties who had many sheriffs who were Republicans, and a well-orchestrated campaign by the NRA. And it embarrasses me that there were many Democratic sheriffs acting like they were Republicans. So I will not change my position.
So, Mr. Chairman, just to clarify, Commissioner O'Donnell, it's Senate Bill 328.
328, yes. That's 328, and that, you can look that up and see what it does.
Any other further discussion, Commissioner Romero? Commissioner Blankenship?
Point of order here. So we got a motion to rescind the last one and accept this one and a second. So if we take a vote on that,
Actually, tell me this one does, you just have to vote on the resolution.
how's that?
You're voting on
This
the
resolution's titled.
Yeah, this does repeal.
So
This
we're
would-
just one vote on the resolution.
I understand that, but, I'm interested in just repealing the old one, and I don't know how that's gonna work, because we got this motion and a second, and then if that goes down, if I vote, you got an amber alert here. For your, and out of 50, that we should all be looking up. So if I vote against that, and then this thing goes down, then the resolution that I more strongly oppose would remain in place. Would I then be able to make a motion to just rescind?
Well, the way we're doing it right now, you can come back in 2 weeks and put another resolution together to rescind the motion.
I would like to have our attorney, since he did prepare the document, explain it a little bit further, if we need to do that.
Commissioners, members of the public, Mr. Chair, the issue came to me in discussions that Commissioner Romero has already mentioned, and the question was, could we reconsider a vote on last week's resolution? And generally under Robert's rules, you cannot reconsider a matter at a later meeting. You can only reconsider a matter at the meeting that the vote took place, and it can only be reconsidered by someone voting in favor of it at that meeting. So when you are past that, the only way to get at an action that was passed is by a repeal. So that was why I drafted this appeal, and the only action that a vote on this in favor of this would take would be to repeal Resolution 2019-13. So that was the request of the commissioner, and that's what I drafted.
The vote will then hold this resolution 2019 repealing 2019-13, and this resolution will stand as we move to vote. Is there further discussion?
Well, I just want to be clear, Mr. Chairman, that what our county attorney says, that this repeal has the same effect as rescinding the previous motion. Is that correct?
Rescinding the previous resolution, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it says so.
Madam Commissioner and Commissioners, that because you cannot take action, another revote on the prior resolution, the only way to do away with it is a repeal. So that's why it's drafted as a resolution to repeal the former resolution. The only effect of this resolution is the repeal of that one.
Okay, all right. I'll go with that and hope the media gets it right.
Any further discussion? Okay, well, I do have some comments to Commissioner Fambro. I think that, you know, we try to do the best we can with every type of law, ordinance, resolutions, to make it a better community. Years ago, growing up, you could build anything you wanted on your property before somebody decided that they didn't want your shed to be on their blind side of what they thought was open space to, you know, having another trailer parked there because you're poor and you can't afford a piece of property anymore, so you have restrictions on that. And I'm not picking on our planning and zoning department. They're doing everything they can to help support the opportunities for families to be able to still continue to reside here. So every often we're going to be changing. We're going to continue to change to where your hands are tied and you're no longer free. I have a grandfather that passed away 7 years ago, gave me a handgun, little pistol. I gotta go report that? No. Do I have to, you know, these are all the things, I have to go get a background check. Do I have to do certain things? No. These are the conversations that some people do not understand. You may have read through it, some others don't. Some want to take it into their own interpretation of what they feel is best for them. So as we're moving forward with these things, always as commissioners say, you know, we're always doing it for what we think. If things change, sometimes at a moment's notice, I think a lot of these things that our sheriff did and other sheriffs did around the state put pressure at the state level to reconsider what they were doing because of that aggressive tactic. So Sheriff Ogriff, you know, participate in some of this, open the eyes of some of those legislators to re-look at what they were doing and see if there's going to have an overall benefit for the whole state. Does it, as we spoke in a meeting 2 weeks ago, there are a lot more things that build to where these people have leaned on using any kind of weapon, whether it's a gun or a knife or anything else to follow through with whatever ideas they have. You know, I just think that as us as a governing body, we continue to try to work together. I think there's a process. We need to continue to follow our process and respectfully ask each other to look at what we're trying to do and not just put somebody in a corner and tell them to make a decision because of, you know, I got plenty of emails and I stopped reading them because it becomes like if it's a personal attack. I'm here trying to represent all of you individually, your voice, and dissect it and try to see what best decision I need to make. I may make a decision that's not going to be favorable to anybody. But with the information I have forth and what has changed, things do make a difference and sometimes you have to make those changes. I still want to respectfully say that there are a lot of good individuals, citizens in the area around the country that respect what a gun can do. And there are people that abuse it. People abuse vehicles, people abuse drugs, they abuse everything that they can find to abuse to find a way of getting themselves out. Doesn't mean that you continue to put more and more rules to where nobody can walk anymore. You can't even walk across the street or else you're going to get thrown in jail. So, you know, realistically, you know, we're doing everything we possibly can as a governing body to represent our constituents, uphold them, the laws of the land in New Mexico and government. So, you know, sometimes you vote. Commissioner Romero thought that he had to change the heart. Good. Respect that. You come for a call for a vote, and I hope that you all respect where we stand. I do represent not just my district, but the whole county of Taos. So I'm not going to make everybody happy. None of us are. So as long as you can continue to respect our decision that we make up here and not hold it against us and not make it a personal issue. I have a daughter. We all have family members that had to go through those calls, you know, shelter in place. I have family members in Cuesta that have had to do that twice. You know, so they're kids, 15-year-old kids with guns. So it's everywhere. I just ask that you continue to respect what each commissioner's decision is, whether it's for or against. We still have our own personal relationship to have with all of you as well. So don't think that, we shun ourselves from not wanting to have a conversation with you, because we might be agreeing down the road on something else. Whether it's a detox or whether it's for early childhood care. So, I just ask that you respect that, and then the public side, those for and against, continue to support coming to fill the room up, put pressure on us. We like this. So, there's been a call for a vote.
Well, hold on.
Yes.
You brought up another point. I hate to do this. For now, I don't want to put you on the spot. Randy, Renell, have you received training regarding the Open Meetings Act and meeting notification?
Yes, sir.
Were we in compliance with all 3 meetings that have discussed this topic?
Yes, sir.
Did we meet every deadline in posting agendas and stuff? Mr. Audit, would you in agreement?
I do.
Madam Clerk?
Yes.
So to attack the integrity, to say we don't notice things, that we don't do things right, that we backdoor things, that we are doing things illegal, I take huge difference to you accusing our staff, the sheriff, everybody, of not posting meetings and hiding things, and it's hard because these personal things, we try to do what's right. When we brought that up, Mr. Chairman, I just want to expand on that. Get ready for that.
Ms. Martinez, would you please call roll?
Commissioner Romero?
Yes.
Commissioner Blankenhorn?
Yes.
Commissioner Fambro?
No,
Vice Chair O'Donnell?
Yes.
Chairman Gagos?
No.
thank you.
Thank you.
As you know, we are entering citizens' concerns. The floor is for citizens to speak about to 5 minutes. No motion, no action will be taken by this governing body. We will direct the administrative staff to move forward. So, all right, we'll go ahead and move on with the meeting. Any of you that wish to continue to speak up, you can get in line and come and state your name, and we'll go ahead and get you ready. Before we start citizens' concerns, I'm going to ask the commission to consider a 5-minute break to do motion been made. Second follows. Ms. Martinez, please call.
Commissioner Romero?
Yes.
Commissioner Blankenhorn? Commissioner Fambro?
Yes.
Vice Chair O'Donnell? Chairman Gagos?
Yes. Thank you. 5 minutes. 5 to 7 minutes. Thank you. So moved. Motion's been made. Do I hear a second?
I'll second, Mr. Chairman.
Second. Mr. Martinez, please call roll.
Commissioner Romero?
Yes.
Commissioner Blankenhorn?
Yeah.
Commissioner Fambro?
Yes.
Vice Chair O'Donnell? Chairman Gagos?
Yes. Next item is citizens' concerns. You have a line. We will go ahead and go up to 5 minutes per citizen.
Hold on, let me get that timer ready.
Okay. Please state your name. Again, for the record, it is 10:19. We're opening citizens' concerns. Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Stephen Rose. I'm a Taos resident for 42 years. I practiced law until 10 years ago. I appreciate the opportunity to speak and your careful consideration of the matter that was just voted on. I want to address mistaken view that underlined the original resolution and the second one in relation to the gun issue. What I see is a mistaken view by the Sheriff's Association and others who feel that there should be no, or there are no limits placed on gun acquisition and ownership and use as a result of the Second Amendment to the Constitution. All our rights given by the Constitution have limits implicit in them. We can't exercise free speech by going into a theater and shouting fire, or by making libelous or threatening statements to others. I particularly want to address Mr. Fambro's concerns about the communications he received, the threatening communications. Those are illegal and improper, and the First Amendment right to free speech does not give any of us the right to threaten others, and I think it's reprehensible that it was done. But the Second Amendment has implicit in it limitations. We don't all have the right to have any weapon that we want to have, or to use it in any way we want to have it, or to acquire it without anyone checking into our backgrounds. I'd like to read one short paragraph from the most recent Supreme Court decision. This is from the opinion written by Judge Scalia in 2008 in the case of District of Columbia versus Heller. This is in the 5-4 majority opinion, and it's a statement by the most conservative judge on the court at that time. Like most rights, the right secured by the Second Amendment is not unlimited. Although we do not undertake an exhaustive historical analysis today of the full scope of the Second Amendment, nothing in our opinion should be taken to cast doubt on long-standing prohibitions on the possession of firearms by felons and mentally ill, or laws forbidding the carrying of firearms in sensitive places such as schools and government buildings, or laws imposing conditions and qualifications on the commercial sale of arms. So I would just like to urge the commissioners in considering what your responsibilities are in upholding the laws and the Constitution of the United States, to be aware that there are limits on these rights, and that the legislation that was proposed and passed by the legislature, making explicit some of these limitations and making them part of the laws of our state, are not in contravention of the Constitution. And so we need to support and enforce those laws. And I think it's the duty of law enforcement to enforce those laws on gun access and use. So thank you very much for your careful consideration of the resolution and your actions just taken.
Thank you for hearing me, commissioners. I appreciate this opportunity. I
I also appreciate your willingness to have this debate again on the previous decision. I have grave concerns about the direction that the United States is taking in general. And yesterday there was an interview on National Public Radio about Australia versus New Zealand and their gun laws. Australia had what was called the Tasmanian Massacre, and after that they instituted very strict gun laws, and since that time Australia has not had any kind of mass killing. Unfortunately, New Zealand chose not to go in that direction because of a strong gun lobby. As a result of that, we saw the effect of that decision on Friday with 50 people killed. The United States has more prisons than anywhere in the United States. The United States has more nuclear missiles than anywhere in the world, rivaling only Russia. There are 9 countries in the world that hold nuke missiles. We must ban assault rifles. We must align ourselves with Australia with strict gun control and background checks. We must also ban nuclear weapons from this planet, and the Los Alamos National Labs must, for humanity, divest themselves of all nuclear arm production. Thank you for your time.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to talk to you. I know most of you, to a greater or lesser extent, have no doubt but that you always try to do the right thing. And then you behave with integrity, and sometimes it's difficult to know what the right thing is. I applaud Commissioner Romero's courage in changing his mind. It's very difficult to change your mind and change your position. It requires honor, integrity, and courage, and thank you. I am, however, saddened that the vote was not 5-0 to rescind the previous resolution. I was saddened that that motion passed 3-2. It shows the divisions in our commission and in our community. My own feeling is that although I may disagree with somebody, an injury done to one of us is an injury done to all. Injustice done to one of us is an injustice done to all. And so I've got to embrace your fears as I would want you to embrace mine. That said, I don't want to talk about guns, I want to talk about propriety and process mostly. Just a bit of a historical note. Up until a few years ago when I fully retired, I had practiced clinical and forensic psychology for 45 years. During that time, I consulted over in Las Vegas on a weekly basis for a long period of time at the forensic psychiatric evaluation facility there. My job was to evaluate allegedly crazy and bona fide crazy murderers mostly, and other violent criminals. I can assure you that no matter how positively disposed toward owning weapons you may be, you do not want firearms in the hands of people like that. I'm with Justice Scalia on that. These people are too impaired. We have to find ways to keep these weapons out of their hands. That said, I just want to really reinforce the feeling that it takes courage to reverse course. It doesn't happen very often, but it's a good thing to do if you can do it. We human beings, once we make a decision, we get committed to that decision, and we rationalize in all sorts of ways why it was the appropriate thing to do. Rationalizations, as you know, are good-sounding reasons for why something happened. They just don't happen to be the right reasons or the true reasons. There's a famous line from the old movie The Big Chill, in which Jeff Goldblum is rationalizing his coming on to Kevin Kline's girlfriend, saying that he's just being authentic rather than being kind of a scoundrel. And Goldblum's response is, no, not rationalizations, they're more important than sex. Have you ever got through the day without a rationalization? We tend to be blinded by those. So again, I congratulate you Commissioner, for having fought your way through that. Just, let me just end with one other thing. The resolution, or sort of the content of the resolution that I think you could have adopted is the following. Whereas resolutions promulgated by legislative bodies are by their very nature intended to express the clear, unified sense and sentiment of such bodies and of their constituents. Whereas the people of Taos County are obviously not of a single mind as to gun laws and gun ownership. And whereas some in Taos are concerned that additional legislation will infringe upon their Second Amendment constitutional rights, others believe that sensible additional legislation is needed to keep firearms out of the hands of dangerous individuals. Whereas some in our community are afraid that new laws are coming for their guns, others view that without new laws, guns are coming for our people. Whereas some in our midst endorse the notion of county sheriff as legislative gatekeeper, empowering the sheriff to unilaterally select gun laws deemed worthy of enforcement, others among us are vehemently opposed to such a proposition and believe it to be unconstitutional. Whereas there is a demonstrable absence of community consensus as the so-called Second Amendment statutory resolutions, now therefore be it resolved that the Taos County Board of Commissioners, the Taos County shall take no action either to approve or disapprove any proposed Second Amendment sanctuary resolution or similar resolution until such time as community consensus in the matter is clear and compelling. I hope you will do that. And I would wish that you would have just tabled the original resolution number 13 that you passed instead of passing it as required vote. With your division and the obvious division in the audience, it's clear that the community is not a common mind. Thank you.
Thank you. If you guys, the rest of you still will state your name for the...
Bob Silver.
Okay, thank you, Bob.
What a time limit on this.
There is a 5-minute time limit. I not cleared mine, so it seemed like, but Commissioner Fambro is taking the time. I don't think there's a clear division. We just have a difference of opinion. So, it's not like we're not going to be able to work with our neighbors or because they own guns and I don't own a gun or whatever the case may be. I think, it's a vote. We decided, we know we are embodied to make sure that any other action items that come up, we're going to take that into consideration with the facts that we have before us and make an educated decision. So this is not the beginning of a divided county, and I hope that gets resonated to everybody because, when we change the property taxes or we change something else that comes up, this can't continue to make that be divided. It's just things that we have an opinion on, we make a decision, and we move forward. I'm not going to hold anything against Commissioner Romero, Blake, and Warner O'Donnell. I don't think they should hold anything against myself and Commissioner Fambro. We can all unify and vote one time for all the same things. If we all feel adamant about it, we can all vote no. It just depends on what happens. So respectfully, I understand that these emotions are still on some people's sleeves. Wipe it off, move on. Stay in our lanes, like they tell us in the commercials, stay in your lane, bro, and we'll be fine. So let's just continue. I do appreciate your concerns, your comments. That helps us in future decisions to move forward. So let's just make sure that we try to make that clear that there's not a division in the county anymore just because this resolution happened. So respectfully, I appreciate your comments. So please.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to address this important issue. And I want to thank you for your time and for your vote. My name is Celinda Kalin. I'm a native of New Mexico. I grew up here and I grew up on a ranch here in New Mexico where I've been carrying guns since I was 9 years old. We hunted for our food. Having said that, I am really dismayed at the situation we have as far regarding guns. I understand both sides of the issue because having gone that way, but I also will say that as a young person, when I was hunting with my brothers, there were those that came out with automatic rifles. We hunted for food. Those that had the automatic rifles would riddle the deer so much with bullets you couldn't eat it. Even shooting off the antlers. I've had to dodge irresponsible gun owners. I've had to dodge their bullets numerous times. One, a very famous celebrity and his brothers were shooting up at our ranch. I had to hide until the sheriff could come because they were drunk. I had a neighbor that didn't know the range of his gun, 22, and bullets were pinging all around my husband and I. These people are uninformed and irresponsible. They heard it for everybody else. Another thing is that I helped a friend with their auction. I clerked for them at an auction where guns were being sold. This was a private auction. When I'm clerking, this man came up to me with a stack of $100 bills. Not kidding. This high, $100 bills to pay for his guns. And I was aghast. Why in the world would you bring that kind of cash to an auction to buy guns? There's only one obvious answer for that, and it's not acceptable. I feel that our children are our future. Our children are the most important thing, possession, beings that we have. The future is for the children. I respect those that feel this very deeply emotionally, that it's a Second Amendment issue. However, as our first speaker pointed out, there are limits to that. And as an example, I bring up automobiles. We all have a constitutional right for an automobile, but we have to do a background check, we have to get a license, we have to register that every time we transfer ownership. Why would a gun be treated any differently than an automobile? Why? And we have to regulate the auto industry, and we know we still have drunk drivers, we know we still have uninsured drivers. This is always going to be someone breaking the law. But my idea is that once you get the insurance companies involved, just as we have automobile insurance, if we had to have gun insurance, the insurance agency is going to look at your mental health record, they're going to look at prior arrest, they're going to look at domestic violence, they're going to look at all these things, and they're going to be better policers than any government. I mean, when you get people in the pocketbook that way, and I think that's a question, just a matter of time, it's coming. Because we saw what the Supreme Court just ruled about being able to sue the gun companies. It's going to come for individuals too. And I respect both sides of the question. As I said, I had to hunt for food, and I know there's a lot in Taos County, a lot of people that have to do that also. So what I would ask is both sides, I'm so terribly sorry that people made personal attacks against Mr. Bombro and his children. That's unacceptable too. What we need in our community, what we need as a nation is a respect for one another, a respect for differences of opinion, and to respectfully discuss it as you have shown that we can do this morning. So I want to thank you again for this time, and thank you for your vote. I feel it's for the children. We don't want our children living in fear. It's unacceptable. They're our future. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners. My name is Marjorie Lucky. I'm a physician and I'm a resident in Taos County. And I actually just came up to thank you for the very deliberative, calm discussion that you had together today. You modeled the type of meeting and the type of process that I hope you will carry forth. I think this is what I've observed when I've been here before, but it wasn't what I observed at the last meeting. And I think that there were a couple of issues. They weren't, I think you probably did follow all the rules, but that process was very rushed. It was not deliberative. It didn't insist on calm, rational discussion of the issues. The resolution, the language itself was flawed. It had untruths, it had misrepresentations, and it had a lot of inflammatory language. And when that was pointed out, and the request was made that the resolution be tabled just for fact-checking, or Mr. Romero asked that it actually be just proofread, the vote was rushed through. And I know that Sheriff Holgreave had mentioned to me that that resolution language was given to him by the New Mexico Sheriff's Association, so I don't blame him for the errors and the inflammatory language that was there. However, I would urge you, prior to considering any other resolutions, particularly on emotional issues, that it is the commissioner's job, prior to bringing that to discussion, to actually fact-check it, to look to see if this is a resolution that you truly believe every word that is stated there, and that you take the time to listen to a very wide spectrum of your constituents, not just the loudest voices that happen to be in a room at one particular time. And I particularly would urge you to go back to the procedure that you have followed in the past, which was to have resolutions introduced and discussed, and then have a waiting period before the vote. That has worked for other resolutions. I think that it would have been most appropriate for a bill like this, a resolution like this, that stirred up a great deal of emotion, and people did need time to be able to weigh in and speak up, and for you to consider whether this was a resolution that was absolutely necessary for the common good of everybody in our county. And I really appreciate your willingness to bring it back. It took a lot of courage, a lot of integrity to, as has been said, to change your mind. And I think it took a lot of integrity for the commissioners to reconsider this in such a calm and deliberative way. So thank you for what you did today.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm not here to talk about the Second Amendment. I am here to thank you, first of all, each and every one of you, for all that you have done for the United States veterans in this great country of ours. And I know that you will continue the effort to help us on our project, which is the Veteran Cemetery. We have already received or appropriated or close to, on money-wise, close to $4 million. And this is thanks to the county, the governor, and our legislators, Carlos and Bobby. They have been a great help to us. And now, since you are our fiscal agents, our guardians, so to speak, we need for you to continue with your good work that you've been doing and honoring the soldiers that are succumbing and going to the ground. So at this time, I would like to ask a question, maybe to the staff, because the county manager is not here. I'm sorry to hear about his illness and his operation, and I hope that he comes out of it good willing and recover from it. My question is, the resolution that you are going to vote on today has to do with the cemetery. And the last meeting that we had with the people from Santa Fe, Mr. Edward L. Mendez, and the architect from here from Taos, Mr. Henry, it was agreed upon that they would take our existing plan and redo it to meet the VA specifications in the federal government. That way that if we ever complete it and to those specifications, they can take over and operate it. And I think that's our goal, and I think that's the goal that people have, because once it's completed and ongoing, we might as well have the federal government operate it and pay the cost to run it. So I don't know if any of the staff knows whether they have completed the work on the plan that they were supposed to modify it to the VA specifications. Does anybody know?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
We shifted that at the first one we met with, what's his name in Santa Fe? Not the director, but
Mendez,
under him. But anyway, he said it had to be, go to the state specs first before it would be, and that's why we changed the fence and the entrance and part of the size. So we should be in compliance, and then we directed the architect to design everything with those specs in mind. So we should be in compliance with that.
Do you know if they're about to be completed?
My understanding is yes.
Okay, because my understanding is that with this approval, that would be to pay for the plan, right?
We've already started. Yeah.
So, Mr. Chairman, Vice Chair, members of the board, the DFA resolution that is before the commissioners is actually to establish the fund and budget for the $73,800 that is to pay for the plans and designs of the Veteran Cemetery.
Right.
So yes, this resolution is needed to be approved by the board.
Right, but do you know if the work has been done already?
So right now, we have to establish the budget before we even pay the contractor for the work that has been performed on that.
Because at the last meeting, it's been 6 months, they assured us that they were going to start working on it immediately.
So the way the grants come to the county, they have to first go through DFA, which is our Department of Finance Administration. The grant agreement has to come from them first before coming to Taos County. At the last commission meeting, we established the approval of that grant. This resolution before us today actually establishes a budget to account for the architectural work needed.
So they cannot start working on it until
The architectural plans need to be completed, and so this right now will allow us to make payment to the plans so they can be completed.
But have they been working on it?
They've been working on them, they have.
They should be about completed.
They should be complete soon, but right now, like I said, we can't issue payment to the vendor, to the contractor until.
I understand that. I'm just wanting to know whether the plans are about to be completed, and if they are, we're going to be in a good position once we get all this monies that have been awarded to us. And one of the concerns that the Veterans Committee has is since if we get all this money that'll be close to the figure that Mr. Mendez gave us to complete the project and start burying the veterans, which would be $4.5 million and 2.5 years to complete it. So the sooner we start working on it, the better. And we would like to recommend that you consider hiring a project manager to go with it full blast. And also, we would like to recommend Steve Archuleta, because he was with us since the beginning of the planning of the cemetery, and he was plan manager. And he knows everything all in and out of it already. And he indicated to us that he would be glad to help us out.
So, Mr. Coca, what we'll do is we'll direct staff to have a follow-up meeting with the Veterans Group. Once we get this signed with, completed with our architect, there'll be other things that we'll have to administratively follow up with on the permitting and getting everything right before we commence the work. So, as soon as we get those ducks in a row, we'll get all of you to the table and we'll look at what target dates look like. Very good. Thank you. We do appreciate your consideration of your recommendation of a project manager. We do have projects that are going to be piling up on some of our management group that we have here, so we may have to consider that. We'll just have to kind of have that conversation down the road.
But we'd rather not bury you guys right away like you wanted. We'll keep you around. Stick around and we'll.
I'll leave the one upstairs, no sweating.
Thank you, Mr. Coca. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Bobby, and I was really amazed that this constitutional sheriff thing even was considered at all. And I have a lot to say about that, but I'm just going to go through something that hasn't been touched on here, and it's the history of why we are where we are now, in my opinion. And that started with President Reagan. And once the communism in Russia fell, there was no big enemy for America. And we need that big enemy. So Reagan said, your government is your enemy. And now what the famous 9 words, I'm here from the government, and I'm here to help, and that would be bad news for everybody, according to him. Then Rodney King happened. And Rodney King was stopped in LA by the police, and they beat him down. And then they stood around him, 4 of them just took turns on beating on him while he was down. And they broke his eye orbit and like that. So, it was on tape. Black people looked at that, everybody looked at it, was just amazed that it was happening. And since there's not that many chances for black people to do a lot, they rioted. And on tape was recorded, black people pulled a delivery guy out of their truck and had a big cement block they were going to kill him with. That's all you see. Fact of the matter is, it doesn't show him smashing the block into that guy. Because another black person there said, hey, wait a minute, look at yourself, look what's happening here. And he talked the whole thing down, the white guy got out of there. That little part where they showed that the black guy was going to smash the white guy, that was then taken by the NRA and said, look what you have to be afraid of. And that was the start of the personal defense gun movement. I could go into the whole history of gun manufacturing, how they sell guns, but the gun manufacturing took that incident and amped it up, amped it up, amped it up. And so people said, we've got to arm. These brown people are going to get us. And so they bought lots and lots of guns and went to the Congress and ensured that they could buy more. And there would be no regulations. That takes me to the point where I'm a Second Amendment guy. Everything that happened to her in hunting happened to me. That's why I stopped hunting. I knew I could be killed. And I had all the guns. There's not a time I can remember when I didn't have a gun. Cat guns, BB guns, pellet guns, 22s, and on, and then all the handguns. So now we're in this situation where the government is our big enemy. That's why you're getting these death calls, threats and everything. Because we got, it's got to such a bad situation that there's a whole group of people that troll people they don't like. And that's what happened here. This division that keeps going on and on. And the scare tactics were just, and our president's even doing it. Now we have to be scared of the people at the border, the brown people. They're bad dudes. And he's also amping up the fact that that we have to be afraid of everything, you know? So, and I've really had it with this mass shootings. It's got to be the norm. 3 or 4 people are killed, it hardly makes the news. It's got to be, you know, like 8 or 10 people. So, I don't quite understand why anybody opposes these common sense things that was passed in our legislation. I know 2 women that said, hey, this is scary, we're going to go buy some pistols. And they weren't afraid of brown people. They were afraid of Nazis, the American terrorist organization, the Ku Klux Klan, all of these white nationalists. So,
Can you finish up real quick?
What?
Your 5 minutes. Your 5 minutes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Reverend Virginia Garrity, and I'm pastor of First Presbyterian Church in town. I want to say thank you, and I want to say I'm sorry. Thank you for passing this resolution. It was a joy and a blessing to watch that happen this morning. I'm a pastor, which means I talk a lot, like I'm doing right now, but I also spend more time listening. And this time last year, March 2018, I spent a great deal of time listening to the children, the youth, the young adults in our community in response to the Parkland shooting and the March for Our Lives, about how they were scared just to go to school because we might have a gun. Last summer and fall, I spent a great deal of time listening to people of faith, various faiths, who were talking about being afraid to gather in their houses of worship after church shootings in the summer in Texas and then the Tree of Life shooting in the synagogue in Pittsburgh. Last week, I, like most of you, I imagine, spent a lot of time listening to the shock, the fear, the grief, the horror in the wake of the shooting in a mosque in Christchurch, New Zealand. And because of all this, it's been disturbing to me that a year after the March for Our Lives, a year after the youth rose up after Parkland and went to the streets and said, we just want to live, let us live. It's been scary to me that folks, grown adults in our community, and including our sheriff who is tasked with protecting our people and our young people, have been seeking ways to resist background checks and these, again, many have said common sense restrictions. I know this is a fraught issue. Guns have become something of an idol in America. We think they're their own God and their own right, but I appreciate you all standing up for, in a difficult decision, a child's right to live and go to school in peace, a mother's right to worship in peace, rather than someone's right simply to bear arms. And I also want to say I'm sorry. I'm really sorry, Commissioner Fambro, Commissioner Gallegos, for what you were bullied. You were threatened. I think most of us, I know I personally, I imagine many of my colleagues here have been bullied and threatened for what we believe in. It's awful. It's awful. Threats that are verbal, by email, that are physical, people get up on you, sexual threats. It's never appropriate. And so I'm so sorry that that happened to y'all this week. Other than that, thank you. Keep up the good work.
Thank you all for what happened here this morning. My name is Karen Munson, and I don't think it's just because I was standing behind the Reverend there that we had a lot of the same things to say, so I think what I'll be saying will be shorter. I wrote 3 emails, one to Commissioner Blankenhorn and Romero and O'Donnell. McDonald, thanking them. I feel very sorry that you were bullied. You were. Well, I can feel the emotion in this room around all of this and from you, whether I am or not, that's what it feels like. But I want to say that it's never okay. But I wanted to disclose who I wrote to because I didn't want to be confused with anybody that took my emotion about the issues regarding children and guns in our country and think I was one of those people because I wasn't. Since Parkland, I've had the great privilege of being around a lot of youth that don't get it, why we don't get it. And by we, I mean adults. When I've been here since the beginning of this meeting, actually since 8:30, and I look around the room, and I imagine that none of us in here, maybe some, but just very few, have ever had to go through drills in school for an active shooter. I remember being in a hallway for the bomb in my school and fire drills, but I never had to prepare for an active shooter that might be one of my co-classmates that have gotten a hold of a gun that can fire off a military gun by going down to Walmart or Bob Sports and blow away most of us. When I was reading the Constitution, I read over the Second Amendment because I go, what the heck, you know? I mean, 200 years have gone by, but most of the adults in this country haven't kept up with the social change and particularly the technological change of the weapons that we're talking about. We can watch a clock, we don't have a second hand, but they had muskets. You know, it takes a really high-skilled musket user, took 20-something seconds to reload. Now, with all of our PTSD, we all have it. We all do, but our kids really have it. If we heard a bang, we'd be out of the room in 20 seconds today. Or one of us, if we weren't running out of the room, we would have tackled the person that made the boom if we had 20 seconds. But the guns that these kids are up against right now, that we're all up against, are military-style automatic weapons that the physicians don't even recognize the tissue that you're trying to sew up if the body's still alive. If our forefathers came into this room today, they'd wonder, what is the problem here? They would have never thought that what their words would be interpreted the way they are today with the kind of weaponry we have and the social structure we have. We have a military, we have a police force. It's a totally different world. And the fact that people still interpret those words, you know, the only thing I feel like I can add to what the Reverend said is the entitlement that comes with age. The entitlement. Our kids think that we're failing to protect them because we are. And they think that our ease of giving up our buddy or selling our buddy a gun over a campfire or, you know, in the backyard is more important than protecting them just going to school. It doesn't take a forensic psychologist to know when someone isn't quite right. To buy a gun, to get a gun, when you're not quite right. We can analyze all these shootings. We know those kids in Parkland called out that kid years before. So all I want to say is to all of us old people that have entitlements, all these years of living, that we step back, we pretend that our forefathers were dropping down into the world we live in now, in the circumstances we live in now, and interpret it like our kids would, because they think we're pretty nuts. Okay? Thank you.
My name is Rachel Penn, and I wrote something that I was going to read, but because of the commission, the vote just now, and also the last two speakers really echoed what I wanted to say. I'm going to cut my remarks shorter. I wanted to thank you guys for reconsidering the vote and for your comments, and I really do apologize on behalf of Taos County for the online threats that you guys were online and other kinds of threats you guys were getting. I don't think that's ever called for. And I also wanted to make a short apology to the sheriff and the commission. When I spoke last time, I wasn't prepared, and I didn't know I was going to get up and feel compelled to speak, and spoke totally impromptu, and I think I ended up offending some people. That was certainly not intended, and also apologies to Sheriff Hograf for that. But I do have a few things I want to add that I don't think have been spoken about. I support sensible gun safety legislation. I think, especially in the wake of the shootings at schools and in places of worship, this is an extremely important issue for me. I want to express that I did a little research and trying to find a balanced view of gun safety legislation versus civil liberty balances, and I found some information from the ACLU that I think really balances those issues, and I want to give you guys some copies of that because I think it's the ACLU's position on gun control is really well thought out and balanced, and I will give you guys copies. Personally, I support the carefully balanced view on this issue as presented by the ACLU. I think that civil liberty questions can be raised when considering gun safety legislation, but like the ACLU, I hold that legislatures can, and consistent with the Constitution, impose reasonable limits on firearms sale, ownership, and use without raising civil liberty concerns. And I agree with the ACLU that, quote, as the Supreme Court has stated, the Constitution does not confer, quote, a right to keep and carry any weapon whatsoever in any manner whatsoever and for whatever purpose. I respect the culture and the tradition here in Taos County, the needs of the people to protect themselves and provide food and livelihoods for themselves and their families, but I know that we can balance these needs with the needs for general public safety by creating sensible and balanced gun safety regulation. Furthermore, these new gun safety laws largely serve to protect law-abiding gun owners and law enforcement. Although these laws cannot completely eliminate risk, they will certainly reduce the number of firearms in the hands of criminals and those who are adjudicated to be mentally ill, which will ultimately help protect our law enforcement officers. The background check laws also serve to protect private gun owners from potential civil lawsuits resulting from unlawful use of a privately purchased firearm. I support the Second Amendment and the right of the people to bear arms, but I recognize that this right, like all other constitutional, legal, and human rights, have real-world limitations. I believe that a person's right to bear arms must be balanced against our children's right to a safe school environment, the rights of domestic abuse victims to use the legal system to ensure their safety, the rights of the people to be safe in their houses of worship and other public spaces. As a society, we have already collectively acknowledged sensible limitations on our Second Amendment rights, largely without disagreement. For example, we've agreed that it should be illegal for people to carry a firearm into an airport, bank, or courtroom, which I think we can all agree is are very well considered limitations, and have not led to the dissolution of our Second Amendment rights. Sensible gun safety legislation and regulation provides further and much needed balance without causing civil liberty issues for gun owners or an infringement upon Second Amendment rights. These regulations do bring up issues of inconvenience for gun owners, sellers, and law enforcement. I understand that. But these are not civil liberty impositions, nor are they infringements on Second Amendment rights. I don't have time to get into the details, so I'll give you guys copies of what the ACLU has to say. But I am in full support of all the legislation that's being passed in Santa Fe. And I also think my views largely represent the majority of Taos County. I've seen ample statistics from many sources that show overwhelming support even among gun owners themselves for background checks. I have statistic sheets from every town's gun safety, if anyone would like to see the footnoted research that shows that background checks do in fact make a difference in firearm-related violence. And I'm certain that we can balance the need for due process and the Second Amendment rights of our citizens with the needs of domestic abuse victims for protection from those who have been adjudicated to pose a current and acute threat to them. Closing the background check loopholes will also protect private gun owners from potential civil lawsuits brought in cases where they may have unwittingly sold a gun to a criminal.
Are you almost there? You will use up somebody else's 5 minutes, but that's a little bit.
The final, I was going to ask the commission to repeal the resolution, and I also thought it would be interesting to take a poll or maybe take this just to see where the county falls on this. I felt last time we were here at this issue that that it was an unbalanced view of Taos County, the overall county, and don't think that the majority of Taos County would support a Second Amendment sanctuary. So, thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Morning. My name is David Van Assen. I'd like to start out by thanking Commissioner Pambro and Commissioner Gallegos for having the courage to stand up, support the Constitution of the United States, and uphold their oath of office. This is not a Republican versus Democrat issue the way you'd like to make it. It's an American issue. And the fact that you can't see that is actually pretty troubling. All the previous resolution did was say that we, the residents of Taos County, recognize the United States Constitution as the supreme law of the land, and that we oppose any action, whether it's on the federal level, the state level, county level, or the municipal level, that tries to work its way around the Constitution, circumvent it, contravene it, supersede it. If we want to change the Constitution, there's a process for doing it. Ignoring it is not that process. So again, I'm not going to spend a lot of time here. A lot of people have talked and said a lot of nothing. So I'm not going to waste any more of your time. But I want to thank you, sir, and I want to thank you. What you did was courageous. You stood up against public pressure, and you did the right thing. The rest of you, live with yourselves.
We hope that we can have some constructive citizens' concerns. I do appreciate everybody to voice their opinion, and I will continue to try to keep it as fair and balanced as we can.
Thank you. I want to thank all the commissioners, county officials, for allowing me my First Amendment right to come up here and speak. I want to thank Chair Corcoran, ladies and gentlemen of Taos County. But you know what I've seen today, not that I'm in agreement with it. We can't hear you. Not that I agree with it, but there are still issues at hand, and there are issues that will come up. The issues we are facing here as an individual right to keep and bear arms. This is just the first step of gun control. If we do not continue to fight for our rights, they will be gone. And if that happens, God help us all. Our great country was founded, please, I want everyone to hear me out. Our great country was founded by groups of individual citizens who formed a militia that gave this country our freedoms. Thanks to our brilliant founding forefathers, we have the U.S. Constitution and the Bill of Rights. And make no mistake, our Second Amendment right is as relevant today as it was the day it was put into law. How are the law-abiding
citizens of this great country going to protect their families, neighbors, themselves from criminals, terrorists, and a tyrannical government without guns? Guns are a necessary tool to keep the peace and establish a militia if necessary. I have a question, and this is one thing I haven't heard in 2 different sessions. I have a question for everyone present today. Have you all forgot about the thousands upon thousands of men and women that have fought and died for this country, for the freedoms and liberties we all cherish? Was their blood shed for nothing? They fought for this and died. Guns are not the problem. Guns are a tool used to protect our families, neighbors, businesses, churches, mosques, schools, and our livestock from 4-legged to 2-legged predators. It's the criminals and mentally unstable out there that are the problem. Our justice and mental health care system are out of balance. And in closing, I don't want to take everybody's time here. I would like you all to reflect on some quotes from prominent leaders in our nation's history. A free people ought not only be well armed, but well disciplined. George Washington, first annual address to both House of Congress, January 8, 1790. Don't let these dates scare you, folks. This is still the real world. Next, what country can preserve its liberties if their rulers are not warned from time to time that their people preserve the spirit of resistance? Let them take arms. Thomas Jefferson. Letter to James Madison, December 20th, 1787. Next, a nation that forgets its past has no future. Winston Churchill. And I must warn you all, if our rights to keep and bear arms is taken away, welcome to a world of chaos. I thank you one and all. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Matthew Chavez. I'm a 5-year resident of Taos County and a lifelong resident of New Mexico. And I want to thank you, Commissioner Fambro and Gallegos, for standing up for our rights and defending our Constitution. I grew up around the Silver City area, and I learned to shoot first BB guns and then 22 rimfires on my father's property just outside of city limits. Several years ago, he passed on that 22 to me. And I made way with this required background check. Being immediate family, I may be exempt, but I recently purchased a pistol with the intent to give it to my girlfriend for her own personal protection when she goes to visit family in Silver City. That would make that a crime, requiring a fee of $30 to $85 to be transferred for a background check to be run on her and in her name. Now, I'm willing to comply with the laws, as are the majority of many citizens of this county, but there has been no definitive plan outlined on how to ensure that every private firearm transaction is taken to a federally licensed firearms dealer and a background check is run. There is no way to really enforce this law, and I've heard interviews from Sheriff Shane Ferrari of Mexico say that if and when a firearm is intercepted at a crime scene and they run the serial number, all the information they will get is if it has ever been reported stolen or not. No information as to who owns it or who it's been sold to. In regards to Senate Bill 328, I believe, any person subject to a protective court order is already federally barred from owning a firearm. But this state legislator that I'm aware of expands on that further to include even non-violent misdemeanor domestic violence conditions such as destruction of property. I'm not entirely sure how that's going to keep us safer, considering criminals will find a way. I wanted to come up here, I'm a little unprepared to speak, But I believe this is not a Democratic or Republican issue, but a personal protection issue. Our Second Amendment was not written with the idea of hunting in mind, but that of self-defense from criminals and potentially, if need be, from government. Now, I do not oppose background checks, as I've purchased many firearms new and have undergone gone through the National Instant Criminal Background Check system many times. But how are we going to enforce this to make sure that guns are kept out of criminal hands? I just want to thank you for being here today and being open to public comment. And I wish you all a good day.
My name is Natalina Alderio. I grew up in a tiny town, smaller than this, in Indiana. I was in high school. I graduated high school in 2005. So that was around the time when we were just starting to realize what an epidemic these school shootings were becoming. And now it's every month, it seems. My father had been a police officer, and he served as the president of our town council. And my name was still found on a hit list. And my school didn't know what to do. My town didn't know what to do. So my dad took my sister and I away for a week to see if they could figure out what to do. We've had 15 years of trying to figure out what to do. And everyone's been silent for the last 3 people who came up and talked. And they were sitting with a group who has talked through everyone else's moments. They're rolling their eyes when the mention of a school shooting is brought up. We know that it's real. And we know that we have to make big moves. And maybe we're not the Supreme Court right now. Maybe we can't make laws for the entire country. But we can stand up and protect our citizens of Taos County, and we can make a real effort to make the children that are in school now feel safer. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing none? Oh, yes, okay.
Morning. My name is Robert. I'm a 77-year-old man who was born and raised in Southern California in the golden age, before we were overrun by every hippie, dope smoker, reject from every other state in the country, and it has slowly deteriorated to nothing. It's the reason I came to Mexico, not to change it, but to join it. And now I see us going down that same slippery road California went. They have the most onerous gun laws in the country. And crime is still rampant. They can do nothing about it because they refuse to address the problem. And the problem is not guns. The problem is people. These same people that are talking about how we need to get rid of the guns are the same people who, if you tried, convicted, and sentenced to death one of these killers, they'd be up there whining about, oh, they don't want to punish them, they want to rehabilitate them, which is a joke. There is no such thing as rehabilitation for criminals. They refuse to address the problem. I see the same thing happening in New Mexico. We practice catch and release in the justice system. No matter what they do, they turn them loose. It just happened the other day in Albuquerque where some guy that was involved in an armed robbery, and they turned him loose on house arrest. You know, what kind of justice is that? Until you address the real problem, which is people, then you're never going to get anywhere. You can pass every law that you can dream up, and you're still going to have the same problem that you have now. Wise up people.
All right, I'm going to go to most citizens' concerns. It is 11:26. I will move on to Approval of the minutes of the March 5th, 2019 regular meeting. Commissioners, you have the minutes before you.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Motion's been made. Do I hear a second? Second. Ms. Martinez, please call roll.
Commissioner Romero.
Yes.
Commissioner Blackenby. Commissioner Fambro. Vice Chair O'Donnell. Chairman Gagos.
Yes. Thank you, Commissioner. Item 9B, this is a discussion, consideration, decision regarding the approval of resolution 2019-14, a resolution authorizing and directing publication of the title and general summary and time, date, meeting place for discussion, considering the decision upon proposed ordinance number 2019-3, amending ordinance number 218-2, Nathan Sanchez and Edward Behill. Mr. Behill, you have the floor.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Mrs. Martinez, Mr. Atio. Thank you for the opportunity to come before you this morning. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Planning Department, Planning Staff is seeking approval from you today to authorize and direct the publication of the title and general summary of time and date and meeting place for discussion for the consideration and action of proposed ordinance 2019-3. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, this proposal is basically for the Upper Las Colinas Neighborhood Association. This is the subject matter of the proposed ordinance is to amend Taos County Ordinance 2018-2. As such, addition to section 5.6 Upper Las Colinas Neighborhood Zoning and rescind ordinances creating and amending the Upper Las Colinas Neighborhood Zone, which are Ordinance 2003-1 and Ordinance 2003-7. The effective date shall be 30 days after approval of the Taos County Board of Commissioners. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, we propose that the Planning Department proposes that this particular rezone for the Upper Las Colinas would be scheduled before the Planning Commission on May the 8th, and then we propose bringing the proposed rezone ordinance to you in the form of a public hearing on the June 19th meeting when Mr. Otto has advised me that he has a scheduling conflict for the first meeting in June, so we respectfully propose that we look at adjusting the calendar for the June public hearing to the second meeting in June, which appears to be, puts us at the June 18th meeting instead of June 19th.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
We adjusted June's schedule to be 2nd and 4th.
Okay.
Already because of NMC in close. I hate that. I just very much when I say that. So that's already in our open meetings act resolution that we changed to 2nd and 4th. Better than opposites.
Commissioners, I can be available either one of those meetings, so I'm sorry for the conflict of the first meeting. It's not going to happen anyways.
No, so we're already 2nd and 4th, if I recall. January and June, we made those adjustments. Right. Open meetings.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, if I may, we're certainly receptive to the date that you're choosing, either the 11th or the 25th. I'm not going to get into the discussion of the proposed ordinance other than to say that the Upper Las Colinas Neighborhood Association submitted their proposed matrix back in November. The planning staff has vetted their proposed matrix. We have made some changes of our own, and we have requested a meeting with the Upper Las Colinas Neighborhood Association for tomorrow, to which they indicated that they would like to cancel because they're not available, or a majority of the board members are not available. Having said that, we also provided a copy of Planning Department's changes to the matrix to the Upper Las Colinas for their consideration as well. We believe that we are ready to move forward with the scheduling of the proposed hearings. And given that the Planning Commission meeting will not be till May 8th, somewhere in that area, or now we're looking at June 11th and 25th, I believe, for the public hearing. If necessary, we are receptive to having a follow-up meeting with the Upper Las Colinas Neighborhood Board and the public, the citizens of Upper Las Colinas prior to the public hearing if necessary.
Excuse me, what day did we set for May?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner O'Donnell, the May meeting is actually from the Planning Commission. That will be at the regular meeting of May 8th. Okay. They meet the second Wednesday.
So we're not, we don't have.
No, it will not be the Board of Planning Commissioners, it will be the Planning Commission. This type of action requires that the Planning Commission basically formulate a recommendation to you, the Board of Planning Commissioners, either to approve or to deny the proposed rezone or to approve or deny with conditions. So, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, again, I was respectfully yield to you as to which one you believe accommodates your schedule better, either on June 11th or June 25th. And again, with once you set a date, giving the planning department the direction to go ahead and publish, with submitting a legal advertisement to the Taos News on Friday of this week, which for publication for next March 28th, or excuse me, a week from today for March 28th, satisfying the notification requirements.
Commissioner Romero, when is the conference?
I was looking at that. I believe it is the week of the 18th, 17th, 18th, 19th, or 18th, 19th.
Our meetings are the 11th and 25th.
Yeah.
So let's do the 11th. The 11th part for you?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Campbell, this way.
I'm fine with the 11th, Mr. Chairman.
Make a motion to approve this resolution with the one change being from setting the date from June 4th to June 11th.
Second.
Motion and a second have been made for discussion. Mr. Beal.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. May I suggest a friendly amendment? The question that we have before is a date and time, if we could ask for a friendly amendment to include a time as well.
And Commissioners, the beginning of the meeting is sufficient for Open Meeting Act purposes. If it is easier to just do the 9 a.m. that morning.
So 9 a.m.? 9 a.m.
I accept that amendment. Second.
So the time and place and the date have been set in motion. I second with that, with the amendment to that. Ms. Martinez, would you please call roll?
Commissioner Romero.
Yes.
Commissioner Blankenhorn.
Yes.
Commissioner Fambro.
Yes.
Vice Chair O'Donnell.
Yes.
Chairman Gagos.
Yes, thank you. Next item is item C. This is a discussion, consideration, decision regarding the approval resolution 2019-15, appointing members to the Taos County Water Advisory Committee. Mr. Hill is present. Commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, as recognized or as specified within Ordinance 2013-9 and Ordinance 2014-3, this establishes the Water Advisory Committee for calendar year 2019. The candidates for consideration are for District 1, Mr. Mark Schutz, District 2, Mr. Arminio Martinez, District 3, Mr. Nicanor Ortega, District 4, Mrs. Gloriana Dominguez Atencio, and District 5, Mrs. Tanya Laracy. Ms. Tanya Laracy, I apologize.
Move for approval, Mr. Chairman.
Motion has been made. Do I hear a second? Second. Second follows. Ms. Martinez, please call it.
Commissioner Romero.
Yes.
Commissioner Blankenhorn.
Yes.
Commissioner Fambro.
Yes.
Vice Chair O'Donnell.
Yes.
Chairman Gagos.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Hillary. Thank you back. Coming back, right? I'm back. Okay, so let me go and get with Mr. Pacheco. You can take a second. Item D is discussion, consideration, decision regarding the approval of resolution 2019-16, certify that the county maintenance road mileage inventory is presented. Mr. Ramon Pacheco.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board. No big change in this, just basic adoption in District 1, which brought our mileage up to 326.12 now. That's from 322.22 to 326.12. Other than that, it's all the same.
Commissioner, any further discussion?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve resolution 2019-16, certify the county maintain road mileage with a common.
Sure.
Second.
We'll make it second.
26, she did.
Yes, Commissioner.
Okay, 26.84 is the most traveled. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, I got it. But in the motion in a second, we'll have comments, not discussion, I guess.
Discussion, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Pacheco, we are trying to be as friendly as we can about our roads, so just put that thing later on. Go ahead, Commissioner.
Simple thing here. Attached to this resolution is our list of roads with a little bit of a spreadsheet, showing the mileage, where it begins, where it ends. And the final column shows the surface. How are we doing with expanding that spreadsheet so that we can see the work that has been done on each one of those roads during the year? Because, as you know, earlier in the year when I asked that question about specific roads, because I had heard from constituents that they hadn't been worked on, whereas in the past, there was a regular schedule. Every 3 months or so, they would see the county. But then I was hearing from numerous constituents about numerous roads that wasn't the case. And so I asked for the information, and there was no such spreadsheet. All there was a couple of not so accurate work orders. So is that in progress, and how is the progress? If so, how's the progress going?
I can do that. That would just be for you.
No?
The board.
Well, it would
The
be...
state would not be interested in any of that.
No, I understand that.
No,
I apologize
that
for
goes to
the
the
confusion. It's not, it doesn't change this resolution in any way, but it does have a major effect on the way we take care of our roads. Having a spreadsheet that we can see what's been done and then see what's planned for the future is necessary. And I don't see any way that we can run a road department without it. I think if you ask the Association of Counties whether or not it's important for our liability that we keep good records of what's been done, they would all say that it is. And so I had been informed that there was work being done on that. But I'm asking. And there is, and so do you have any idea when that will be completed so we can?
I cannot, at this time I can't tell you when it will be given to you. It's going back in time and predicting the future all at the same time, so it's a little bit of a process.
It's more like planning than predicting. Thank you.
Also, Commissioner Fambro, before I pass on to this commission, I think there's also inventory, as your recommendations coming to underline what we're going to do with the processes, there's also historical inventory that there are roads that are private roads that have been managed by the county that were not on the county recordings. Each district may have a road there that's been one of them politically driven roads that were done in the past, not by this commission, but probably historically have been maintained because of past commissioners' action. So there's also that we need to factor in and bring to the commission to take that off the records, or we're going to want to continue to do that maintenance. So there's a couple of things that Mr. Pacheco still needs to get in order before he puts a full presentation, but we'll try to get that, hopefully he can move forward with that. Commissioners Romero and Vice Chair, do you guys have anything?
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. Commissioners, I just wanted to make the remark that District 3 now has the most miles, I guess, in the entire road system, 96.41. That's, a lot of those are on the other side of the Rio Grande.
Those are our biggest stretches, yes.
And I was traveling through the Western Road the other day, and it's in pretty good condition still. A lot of traffic on it.
Actually, we have plans for that this summer, so to preserve it.
Right, okay, cool. Thank you.
Vice Chair O'Donnell.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, are you still getting the dailies?
Yes.
I think that is your document to create what one commissioner has suggested you do. I used to get the dailies. I liked getting them. I looked at what was being done in my district, the issues of the roads, and I think that is what you can draw from to compile your data. And I would ask that you send me the dailies again. I look at them. I don't know why we stopped. Maybe other commissioners don't, but I look at them to see what the road issues are in my district, so please send those to me. And I would like to make one more comment regarding political decisions that have been made years ago, and I'm going to bring up Las Trampas Road, which somehow got taken off the list, and another road is now named that is not the name of the road. And I am working with the Forest Service to see if we can open Las Trampas Road for fire safety issues. It is still on the county books as CO. Sorry, I have to go look at the plat that real estate agents give to people that are buying the property. There's a property that was recently bought. It's still listed as a county road, and that road starts at Las Trampas Road, okay, the true Las Trampas Road, the intersection of Mr. Silky, and goes up to Ojito.
Vice Chair, I think we have probably all concerns in some of our districts.
I'm just pointing it out.
Right, and I think we can probably obtain some more information and get Mr. Pacheco.
I'm not asking you to do anything else.
Right, I just want to move forward with the meeting and see if we can get approval for what's been presented by Mr. Pacheco. So there's been a motion and a second. We all had our comments and decisions. Discussion, Mr. Martinez, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Romero.
Yes.
Commissioner Blankenhorn.
Yes.
Commissioner Fambro.
Yes.
Vice Chair O'Donnell.
Yes.
Chairman Gagos.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Pacheco. We'll get with you on how we can get this developed, look at which rules we use, and see if we need to get more support to expedite this. Thank you. Item E is discussion, consideration, and decision regarding the approval of resolution 2019-17, authorizing, directing publication of title, general summary, and time and date meeting place for discussion, consideration, and action of proposed ordinance 2019-4, amending the ordinance 2018-2. Mr. Vito.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to take a minute and just acknowledge the presence of Mr. Rudy Pereira, the senior planner here in the planning department, who's joining me this morning. Mr. Pereira has been really instrumental in pointing this particular amendment out to us, as we in the planning department have been experiencing an influx of cell tower carriers who have been addressing our department wanting to improve existing telecommunication facilities. And the reason that there's a big push and a big urge right now in improving these is because of the push to 5G. And as many of you may know, maybe you don't know, the 5G is the latest generation of cellular mobile communications. It succeeds the 4G LTE, 3G, and 2G systems. 5G performs targets high data rates, reduced latency, energy saving, cost reduction, higher system capacity, and massive device connectivity. So what is happening is we have existing facilities in the county. A lot of these carriers are contacting the planning department wanting to remove the existing antennas and replace them with new 5G antennas. Our ordinance, our land use code right now, the strict interpretation of it says any expansion of an existing facility requires at minimum a commercial zoning clearance permit. And there's other areas in our land use code that basically encourage the co-location of antennas on existing facilities. So our ordinance is contradictory. It contradicts basically, we want people to utilize existing telecommunication facilities. We don't want people to come in and construct a bunch of new towers unnecessarily. So it contradicts our intent of the land use code. So this proposal is basically to come back and do an amendment to the land use code where by replacing antennas or adding additional antennas to existing facilities, we basically would approve this administratively without it having to go to a commercial zone clearance permit. That's the nexus of this amendment. It's kind of streamlines the process, and it also is in compliance with federal requirements. Federal requirements has established an exclusionary process that allows telecommunication facilities, so long as you don't expand beyond 10%, that you do not need to exercise a 106 permit, which is basically a NEPA study. And so I believe our amendment would still fall within those confines. If they do exceed the 10%, they still need to go the other route. This is for people who are below the 10% expansion that we allow them to move forward. So having said that, again, we're respectfully asking for you for a time and date to publish for an amendment to the land use code, specifically to sections 3.3.2, I believe, and section 4.11.2, which basically require individuals to pursue a minimum a commercial zone clearance permit. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, I don't believe that this would be a contentious item. We've already scheduled the public hearing for the 11th of June. It is my recommendation, if you so wish, to maybe look at that same date. Otherwise, we're certainly receptive to any date that you may choose.
Commissioner Fennell.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve Taos County Resolution 2019-17, directing publication of title for meeting and necessity that Mr. Beal spoke of. And that would be with the date and time of June 11th at 9 a.m. and with a comment following the second.
Okay, do we hear a second?
Second, Mr. Chair. We've always told the people in Mr. Hill that, number one, the Taos County land use regs are a living, breathing, ever-changing document to better serve the community. What you're doing here is exactly that. You're making things simpler. It's like what we did with the solar. We want to make it simpler for people to experience renewable energy and things like that. So what you're doing is right on the right track, and I thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Blankenham, thanks. Yeah, me too. Great work here on this. This is really going to be important for us. And I love the way we're going about it. I also love that other hearing on Upper Los Colonias. As you know, one quick question. Have we addressed the antiquated subdivision merger thing yet with those lots?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner, Planning Forum, Plan Staff is working with Mr. Actuarial and trying to do the language. We have to prepare some language on Mr. Actuarial and be taken that under consideration.
Okay. Thank you. Look forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have received emails stating that 5G is unsafe. It is a health hazard. It has not been properly vetted. There are certain communities that have passed ordinances prohibiting 5G. And
testimony regarding.
I have the floor. I have the floor.
Commissioners.
And I'm sorry, but I am going to vote no.
Well,
but I want to make a comment that
Vice Chair,
we need to have public hearings on this matter because this has not been properly vetted. And the World Health Organization says that too.
Well,
so
Vice Chair, I understand that you want to voice your opinion, and we will have that opportunity to voice those opinions in that setting in June. So,
when is that?
In June.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner O'Donnell, I believe that Commissioner Fambro has chosen for June 11th at 9 a.m. as well. I'm merely coming before you today requesting a time and date for publication.
So what we want to do is hold those opinions for when that public hearing comes. We're just putting dates down. We're not asking for anybody's personal opinions, ideas, whatever the health systems or anybody else is doing that. We need to be proper and save those concerns or ideas or opinions when it's time.
But isn't it true, once we hold a public hearing, it's pretty much a done deal? You're not going to go back and change, this is the issue we've had with all these ordinances and public hearings. So I'm going to request additional, is it first heard in P&Z?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner, no, there is not. We could certainly go before the Planning and Zoning Commission, and they will only be a recommending body. And I do want to add that whenever we come before you for any one of these proposed amendments, these are certainly considered on their own merits and on their own qualifications. By no means is there any type of implication that these are rubber-stamped ordinances. They all come before you at a public hearing where individuals will have the opportunity to speak for or against, voice their concerns and considerations that they may have, and ultimately you as the governing body will be tasked with making a decision as to whether or not to support the proposed amendment based on the testimony, based on staff's recommendation, and basically from that point you can render a decision. Again, I don't think that it's fair, and I'm not trying to allude to the fact that you imply, or I may be misunderstood, we do not rubber stamp these applications. We come on a case-by-case basis.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. Commissioner Romero, do you have anything?
No, I'll reserve those questions for one.
Thank you. That's the proper process. So the motion and a second have been made. We got the June date set. Time and location is similar.
Yes.
Okay, so Ms. Martinez, would you please call roll?
Commissioner Romero?
Yes.
Commissioner Blankenhorn?
Yes.
Commissioner Fambro?
Yes.
Vice Chair O'Donnell?
No.
Chairman Gagos?
Yes. Next item is item 10. Thank you, Mr. Beal, for the work that you do and getting us prepared. The next item is item 10. This is a consent agenda. Commissioners, these items in the consent agenda below have been reviewed for the purpose of voting on all items with one vote. These items are for the Commission's discretion and decision. We have items A through H. Give me, if I guess I read them off the screen, that way I can see better. Item A is approval of the DFA resolution number 25, 2018-2019 fiscal year, requesting to increase general fund revenues and expenditures to account for unbudgeted revenue being generated and to increase expenditures of general fund cash balance to cover an expense approved during a regular meeting held on March 5th, 2019. Ms. Martinez would be available for any questions if you wish to pull this item. Item B is approval of the DFA resolution number 26 for the fiscal year 18-19, requesting to increase revenue and expenditures to account for a scholarship for Enchanted Circle EMS for an EMT basic course awarded to a San Cristobal Volunteer Fire District for one volunteer. Item C is approval of the DFA resolution number 27, 2018-2019 fiscal year, requesting to establish fund and budget for capital appropriation project number 18 C-2581 in the amount of $73,800 to plan, design, and construct at the Veterans Cemetery in Taos County and to transfer temporary cash from the general fund. Item D is approval of the DFA resolution number 28, 2018-2019 fiscal year, requesting to increase expenditures of the E911 Central Communication Fund to cover the purchase of emergency medical dispatch (EMD) software purchased in 2017 in the amount of $41,008.30 for the sole benefit of Central Dispatch. Item E is the approval of the DFA resolution number 29, 2018-2019 fiscal year, requesting to adjust the 2019 fiscal year final budget to increase revenues and expenditures according to amendment number 2 of the contract of 2018-2019 68052 by and between Taos County and North Central New Mexico Economic Development Department, non-metro area agency on aging, extending the senior employment program through June of this year, 2019, June 30th. Item F is approval of the budget adjustment for GRT Infrastructure Fund 0103-1766 to allocate sufficient budget for professional services through the fiscal year end. Item G is approval of the budget adjustment for senior citizen fund 0219-0112 and 0113 for utilities and telephone expenses through the fiscal year. Item H is approval of the resolution 2019-11 for acceptance and approval of the fiscal year 18 financial audit. Commissioners, this is the audit that was presented to us earlier in the presentation.
Move for approval, Mr. Chairman, of all items.
Second. Motion and second have been set. Ms. Martinez?
Commissioner Romero?
Yes.
Commissioner Blankenhorn?
Yes.
Commissioner Fambro?
Yes.
Vice Chair O'Donnell?
Yes.
Chairman Gagos?
Yes. Next item is item 11. This is a discussion consideration regarding a motion to direct council for Taos County to no longer pursue and appeal the case of the water transfer wherein as a sale of water from top of the world farm in northern Taos County to Santa Fe County and other federal users was approved by the state engineer, Mr. Patio.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, I wanted to give you a brief public update on this. We've obviously made you aware of all the things that are going on with this lawsuit, but it is an important matter. Water is a very significant matter for everyone in New Mexico and those in Taos County. We were tasked, first of all, to take a look at the case of Taos County versus the state engineer in regard to a challenge we made to a transfer of water rights from top of the world farm to Santa Fe County and pueblos in middle of the state in neighboring Santa Fe County. And that challenge occurred, the state engineer ruled against Taos County, and then the matter was appealed. And you asked us to take a look at the viability of pursuing the appeal and whether or not our legal chances in pursuing that made it viable. Unfortunately, litigation like this is extremely expensive, and this isn't funded by any insurance fund or anything, it's coming from taxpayer dollars. So I think prudently you decided to take a look at the viability of the appeal prior to us proceeding. It would have cost a tremendous amount of money in expert resources and attorney's fees to pursue this, north of 100, probably north of $200,000 to proceed on this appeal. It is our recommendation after a full review of the law, and it was done by my colleague David Roman, who is a lead expert in the state on water law and is representing the state on several matters involving water law, and Marcus Rail, who is also representing the firm and you on this case. Essentially, what state law in its current form allows is transfer between water basins without regard to the individual harm caused to that basin versus the state as a whole. State law essentially looks at the betterment or the harm to the entire state. So when you're looking at transfers between basins, as in this case between Taos County down to Santa Fe County and surrounding pueblos, you cannot argue that it's harming Taos County only. You have to look at the statewide effect. And the decision was made by the experts, both for the engineer and the applicants in this case, that there was no imbalance, there was no harm to the state. There, in fact, may be some benefits to the state for this transfer. So essentially our advice is, in the future, we should look to, if there are ways to amend state law to protect Taos County water from these types of transfers, to do that. The second recommendation is to look to purchase water rights where they can be made available, and using resources to acquire water when necessary for both the residents and local governments within Taos County to protect our water. And that may actually be a better use of funds than fighting this case. Unfortunately, it would be a little bit like the old Don Quixote tilting at windmills for us to continue on with this, given the state of the law. And it is, I know it's heavy news for a lot of people, but our recommendation based upon a risk management analysis and a fiscal analysis. And the law would be to not pursue this case further and to dismiss our appeal.
Thank you. Mr. Actuary.
So I'd be asking for that vote.
Yes. Entertain a motion to direct counsel of Taos County to no longer pursue the appeal case of the water transfer.
So moved.
Motion has been made. Do I hear a second? I will second that. Thank you, Mr. Atio. Ms. Martinez, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Romero?
Yes.
Commissioner Blankenhorn?
Yes.
Commissioner Fambro?
Yes.
Vice Chair O'Donnell?
Yes.
Chairman Gagos?
Yes. I ask that the commission consider through the conversation with legal counsel that we may possibly find a way to look at the future processes of how water can and cannot be distributed within Taos County. We need to try to hold that up as best we can. Legally, we hope that there's an opportunity to do so, but we can have that conversation. I know that we need to close this contract and then we can hopefully move on with different opportunity, different items. Thank you, Randy, for the efforts that the firm did to try to chase this down. That meant a lot to myself and the constituents of my district, in which we feel that it is one of the beginning areas of where water does come through and get into the Rio Grande. And hopefully that the recipients down will be able to manage their water properly and appropriately for their citizens. Thank you. Next item is contracts, agreements, MOUs, and bids. We have two. Item A is discussion, consideration, decision regarding the approval of a memorandum of understanding between the town of Taos and Taos County for Camino del Medio engineering project. We have Ms. Lupe Martinez. Thank you, Ms. Martinez.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. The MOU before you is actually an MOU that should have been signed back in 2017. Taos County did make the vote during the meeting held on April 4th, 2017. I did pull the minutes just in case you want to see a courtesy copy of it. We were trying to find the MOU original and it never had been signed. This is basically to satisfy the payment that Taos County agreed to the town of Taos for the Camino del Medio work being done by Sauer and Miller, and I do recommend approval.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion second been made. Do we have any further discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Martinez, please call roll.
Commissioner Romero?
Yes.
Commissioner Blankenhorn?
Yes.
Commissioner Fambro?
Yes.
Vice Chair O'Donnell?
Yes.
Chairman Gagos?
Yes. Next item is item B, is a discussion, consideration, decision regarding the amendment number 2 to contract TCC 2018-16 Lopez Anaya as general consultation to increase the funding by $90,000. Ms. Martinez, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Amendment number 2 increases the contract $90,000 for a total amount of $290,000. Mr. Atio is prepared to provide you a kind of briefing on some of the issues he's been addressing, that basically he has been providing legal counsel for a lot of the issues that have arisen regarding the jail and some of the planning issues that we've been having to secure legal consultation for, and I do recommend approval.
Move for approval, Mr. Chairman. Second.
Motion is second been made. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Ms. Martinez, please call roll.
Commissioner Romero?
Yes.
Commissioner Blankenhorn?
Yes.
Commissioner Fambro?
Yes.
Vice Chair O'Donnell?
Yes.
Chairman Gagos?
Yes. Item 13 is county manager's report and matters. An update from the county, to the county commissioner of various items affecting Taos County. Ms. Martinez, thank you.
Thank you. County Manager Jaramillo has emailed you the courtesy report. I will not go through it in detail, however, I will add a couple items to that. So Taos County, on April 22nd, we'll be having an Earth Day that we will be hosting Taos County Solid Waste. There'll be an Earth Day cleanup. 9 o'clock will be the sign-in at Limon Sanchez Park. We'll have a luncheon scheduled at the Juan I. Gonzalez Agricultural Center shortly after that. We are hoping to do publications on our Facebook page regarding this. We are also scheduling through our New Mexico Clean and Beautiful a cleanup in the Cuesta area. We are waiting for our school superintendent to give us a date and time as to when this event will happen in Cuesta. We are also proposing our financial planning has been going underway. Right now during our 2020 cycle, I have given you guys a courtesy copy of the budget calendar. So I will be coming before you April 16th asking you for tentative dates for approval and adoption of the preliminary budget. Right now, after this meeting, I will be coordinating a staff meeting with all departments, and I will be issuing them their budget worksheets so they can start working on the budget preparations. Taos County did have a conference call yesterday regarding the flat grants. This is on Mr. Jaramillo's report. We did receive 2 out of the 3 grants that we did submit proposals for. The first one is for the John Dunn Bridge. The amount was $3.3 million. And for County Road C-110, the Veterans Memorial Road, the amount of that one is $2.3 million. Taos County's appropriation on those matches that come from the flat grant are 14.56%. These projects won't be scheduled to start until the fiscal year 2022. Just giving you a courtesy on these, by the time the process actually starts, by the time the award gets, the funding gets awarded, and by the time we actually proceed with the grant requirements, it will probably start 2022, so these are just things up and coming.
And that was a, congratulations, that's big news. That our portion is about 400, what is our portion?
For the separate grants, it would be 14.56% in each grant.
Which is about 400,000.
Right.
Okay.
So we'll have to take that into consideration when we start the budget.
Congratulations, that's exciting.
And before you get too far from Earth Day, I will pick which section of the road Commissioner O'Donnell will be doing this year. She's going to do the one that I did last year, because that's nasty.
And if we're talking about trash can, would you please consider Penasco get the clean and beautiful when you submit
the application?
The application, I believe Quest has got it the last 2 years.
We're aggressive. We're aggressive. We are the roadway to the national amusement park in trade. Know what I'm saying?
So this week, Taos County is also expected to receive our grant agreement for the 750,000 award CDBG project. We haven't received it yet, so hopefully that should be coming. What will happen there is we get the grant agreement, we formally come before the commissioners to accept it. Then it goes back to DFA, gets the formal signatures, then it comes back to us, and then we establish the budget. So with the April work study session that we are planning at the end of the month, we do want to share the plans regarding the historic courthouse renovations to share with you how they're coming along and basically to have feedback from the community.
And Mr. Chairman, on that note, I've been getting, people want to know what's going on, the merchants. So maybe we can schedule a meeting to explain to them what we're going to do in our phases.
Yes.
Thank you.
So you guys can see the building next door, the senior center construction is pretty much near close. We are scheduling basically tentative dates for move-in. We've met with different contractors on site, and we're also trying to finalize the phone issues and the stuff that we're trying to set up for the last part of it for move-in ready date. The new senior center, we're planning to move in on the week of April 8th. During the move, the seniors will be served out of the TCDC, which is the Taos County Economic Development District. We'll be preparing the meals there at their center. And we would suggest that the commissioners have the grand opening sometime during the summer, the first week in May, whatever day you will choose for that grand opening ceremony. A lot of people have been admiring the building. A lot of the seniors have been taking an interest in it, and you guys have seen the congregate meals that we have been serving. Our site have increased due to the curiosity and the move-in ready date, ready for that building to be open and ready for the public.
And Mr. Chairman, if we could please convene the New Mexico Art and Artifacts Committee, who will put out RFPs for the article places for that building. You could, I believe Paul Figueroa is the current chairman, and so we could get that process going for people to submit their artwork. It's going to have to be a sculpture. Thank you.
Thank you. That is all for the manager's updates.
Mr. Chairman, thank you, Ms. Lube. The last meeting that we had, Brent brought up some discussion on the road department building, and that kind of sparked an interest for me because Elvira de los Ranchos Water and Sanitation District was awarded $100,000 state legislature for the building of a storage building at the Los Ranchos property down in Model. And so I mentioned it to our director, Ivan Vallejo, that this building on Tom Holder Road, Herdner Road, might be available, possibly for taking down and reuse or something. And him and another staff member looked at it, and they're very much interested in it. Basically recycling the building, taking it down, and then rebuilding it, reconstructing it, probably in a smaller version. So just wanted to let the board know that there is that interest from Los Ranchos to do that.
I think Commissioner Romero, the conversation was the best case possible for us not to have to incur any funds to try to tear it down.
Right.
If somebody chooses to, there's always the liability of their own.
Right.
All the county harmless from any kind of structural issues that may or may not. And you buy it as it is, you buy it as it is. And if it can be approved through the process of it getting certified to be able to use as storage, I think it's beneficial. The conversation was that if we open it up this way, then I think there may be other community organizations that the county serves, whether it's other water districts, that they'd be willing to bid on it as well. You know, let's make it open and fair for everybody so that not just one community has an opportunity, but if it's going to be bid on so that it serves their purposes and it falls without the anti-donation clause, and we have every smaller entity tackle that. The other conversation was the company that's going to put the building or we put it out for bid so we can demo it, so there's no liability at the county level also.
Yeah, and I understand that. In the meantime, El Valle de los Ranchos is growing by leaps and bounds. We're almost approaching 1,000 water connections, or not water connections, but sewer connections. And our water connections are growing as well. This year this summer we've got 3 major projects, millions of dollars, one including a water connection in the West Romero Road area all the way down to Los Cordolos. And that's going to tap into about 140 water connections gradually. And then also in terms of sewer, all of East Yancanalo, all the way up to our community center is going to have the ability to connect to sewer. And then we're also establishing a trunk line on the south end of Camino Loma, where Comanche lives, all the way up to the Taka Community Center. And so that'll definitely put us to about 1,200, 1,300 sewer connections by the end of the summer. And so we're growing, we're needing to buy new equipment and stuff like that.
I just wish you guys could help the people in the middle ranchitos, because it's getting worse and worse, but the town has no interest in helping, and I wish you guys could.
In fact, Commissioner Fambro, that area west of the middle road, Camino del Medio, I think they call it the Sunshine Valley. There's a whole bunch of houses, buildings on the area where the trunk line is that takes the sewage to the sort of sewer plant. We're in the process of working with the town of Taos to transfer all of those users to the El Valle de los Ranchos, because it is within the El Valle de los Ranchos district.
Becky would love you guys. She'll hate me forever. She would love you.
Well, I do see, Commissioner Romero, that you guys have a need. Let's just make sure it's fair and open for everybody. If we're going to do something like that, that's good.
So, proposals ready?
Yeah,
So,
let's
Mr.
propose together.
Chairman, there had been talk that facilities might get that building and locate it over near the senior center, but so that has been abandoned. I mean, there was some talk, there's no place to put it at the armory.
No, there's no place at the Armory Law.
Vice Chair, there was the idea of tearing it down, rebuilding it, and having the integrity be compromised was considered. Plus, it also, as Commissioner Romero's thinking that, if he's wanting it for free, that's one thing, but to tear it down and then put it back up, you'd almost be better just putting something up brand new that's going to have the integrity and it's going to have, you're going to have some assurances on this. So, my personal opinion, I've been in the business of doing demolition and doing with recycling and scrap metal. It's hard to do with trying to repurpose something like that. If it's stayed at the same place, that's one thing, but trying to take it down and put it in another location, it does have some problems. So, let's see what comes of it. But it's easier just to go from there.
And when are we supposed to be completely vacated from Herndon? Isn't it April 1st?
We were supposed to get out of there by March 31st
For this year?
this year.
So we need to put those RFPs out immediately.
Yeah, and so we have most of the building actually empty right now. There's just a couple of things we're working on getting it moved out of there, including a large wall-mounted fan and some of the exhaust system that was in there now. So we should be done.
And what about all the vehicles stored? Have they been removed?
Some of the vehicles are still waiting to be picked up from the auction that we recently had. So we're waiting for pickups and stuff. But some of those vehicles that did not sell, those are going to have to be relocated to the Oregon.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Next item is Commissioners' reports and matters, new business to be considered for future commission meetings, and Commissioners' announcements. You heard it from the public commissioners. They asked that we do a proposed resolution and/or ordinance, that we take our time. If it sits out a month, it's not that there's some sense of urgency, so we can have a discussion. I asked in taking on the chairman position that we respect each other's time. If you want to propose an ordinance or resolution, that they would come for consideration and discussion, then we put on agenda item for it. Let's try to do that. I don't know if we have to do an in-house change of order of how we do our meetings. Mr. Audit, maybe you can help me with that, but I really would hope that, some of the concerns that the citizens had today about a lot of things that we do sometimes gets pushed and bullied, and we don't have time to reconsider some of these things. Hence, we had a conversation with UNM-Taos to do a presentation as opposed to just automatically picking attendance. So, please, for the respect of the rest of the board, every one of us should consider, if we want to have something, this is the time to put this as future commission meeting items. If you want to change that idea, then I'm open to that as well, but we do need to have that respect for each other. I know how hard that money comes, hard it is to fill out those applications for finance department and grants department, all those groups that they work with you, Ms. Martinez. I want to thank them all for participating in whatever, putting these grant applications, because it's not an easy process, I don't think. So if there's any future items, commissioners, I'll get time to do so.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, and I fully support that. It's good parliamentary procedure. I would like us to bring for discussion the census resolution, and this is to ensure everyone's counted. And so I think in the rural areas, we need to have a plan of action and how we're going to structure it, whether the chair will chair that. We appoint people to the committee. So it's good to bring a draft resolution and then we discuss how we want to accomplish that no one's undercounted, because we lose $2,000 for everyone who's undercounted. And most online, so most of the seniors may not have access. We need a plan of action.
Vice Chair, I think that if you put a proposed plan of action as to who would be participating in some of the processes. Let's look at that as a discretionary item, and then we can ask for a draft resolution thereafter. I don't want to see a draft resolution without us having some kind of process where we put it forward and have delegated
We're going to need
responsibilities.
to discuss the process
Right.
among the commission, how that's going to happen.
Okay, anything else? Vice Chair.
Are we on to announcements?
Well, we have, no, we're just future meetings. Hearing none from Vice.
But, Mr. Chair, I just happened to notice we need to do a clerical amendment. So the resolution that we did, there are going to be two of them, two planning publications. And I apologize for not catching this as we were on them. They're both going to have to be modified with the new date of hearing. So that right now, they state June 4th still. So I believe the proper way to deal with that would be a motion to correct the face of the items, and I'll tell you what those items are. It's Resolution 2019-14, and 2019-17 should be changed from June 4th meetings before the commission to June 11th.
Yes.
Both motions to pass those included the corrected dates, is that enough?
Well, and I wanted everybody to know I'm physically changing that on the face. I am.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, commissioners,
Two on this.
anything else?
Do I need to
for-
second that motion? Do we need a formal motion?
We don't need actually a formal motion, I just wanted it to be on the record that I'm clerically altering those resolutions.
Okay.
To conform with the motion.
Correct.
Correct. Any other new business for future commission meetings? Hearing none. Any commissioner announcements? Sure.
So, Mr. Chairman, as you know, I was at the legislature for 3.5 days, a guest of Senator Cisneros, in relation to comments made about water rights transfers. Senate Bill 12, online notification of water rights transfers passed. That bill will, instead of having to go to a legal section for water rights transfers, you can go to the state engineer's office and see what water rights transfers are being proposed. I'm sure the governor will sign that. In addition, I had proposed a Senate memorial for the Carson Forest and White House Christmas tree, but that died. We didn't get enough time. But on Friday, and I want to pass these Christmas ornaments out, Forest Service carved the names of all the senators, and on Friday, they were passed out by the Sergeant of Arms and decorated by our senators, and they were all returned. And I know we'll do something similar at the county. We have time, and I want to take that Senate Memorial 173 and kind of rework it, that we have a resolution about the Christmas tree. So that was very, very exciting. And it was fun. They were very amused. You could see them smiling as they were decorating the ornaments. So I know we have a burner. So at some point, if we could get on board and we could do a similar thing with Taos County's logo and sign our names, and county departments could do the same, but be creative, maybe create a few ornaments that are different. But that was really a fun thing to watch, and I'd like us to do the same.
So these will be hung on the tree?
Yes, those will be hung.
Yeah.
There was some joking about, can they get them back?
Yes.
And Senator said, well, if you want to be there when they take the ornaments down, I'm not sure if that's possible to get the ornaments back, but we'll check with the Forest Service to see if that's possible.
Where exactly is it coming from?
They have it in, there's a couple of tree locations. One's in the Rio Costilla Association, one's up in the Cabresto, and another one's up in Lama. Wilderness area, they got to pick 5, and they'll break it down to 1. And then there's 70 additional trees that'll be part of that. The Village of Cuesta will be announcing with the Forest Service when that tree ceremony goes, and we'd be inviting every elected official in the area. They'll do a parade. They got to go from, they'll do the China Circle if they can, go up to Farmington, to the San Juan area, I mean, Albuquerque, Santa Fe, down into wherever Smokey Bear was born, I guess, founded, or whatever you call it. Yeah, and then it goes down to El Paso.
It goes all across the
So,
country.
yeah, he got all the way around, he's gonna go down the whole southern route.
The tree?
The tree. So sometime, I think, probably beginning or middle of November is when they'll be doing that identification where that tree is still safe.
Are they going to cut it, or is it going to be alive?
I don't know.
It's going to be cut 75 foot tall, and they have to make 10,000 ornaments.
The last time that we did this, the town council was the sponsor, I believe it was, they attempted to do all, but it was too heavy.
I saw it a couple of years later in '98. I think it happened like in '96.
I believe so.
And I saw the tree in '97 and '98. It was dead.
Yeah.
And Mr. Chairman, if we might be able to find funds to be sponsors,
She said that.
there's different categories. Our name would be on the delivery transport vehicle, so I can send you the different sponsor levels and see if we can budget that for our next budget cycle.
Okay. Anything else? Anything else? Yes, we're going to shut down. We're going to we got some trees there. I do have,
I think I'll become mayor.
whether,
Just so I can go Washington. It'll be my last Thank you.
all right, we'll work on that, I guess, somehow. I do want to have some, I don't have any announcements, I just don't want to say, I don't want to say bye to you.
Motion to adjourn.
All right,
Second.
motion and a second said. So, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Aye.